Balaka. Can't drive on the road at night, cause you come with your lights so bright, like you want blind me for spite. It is overbearing. Me and you never had no war. Why you spot the light on me for? Is it accidental or you just so uncaring? Every day you bout here complaining all the things that ain't going right. From now on I will be explaining which place you could spot the light. Spot the light in the parliament and see who is looking out for you or barely fooling we. Spot the light in the right places and find out who is on the people's side and who's selling out. Don't spot it on me, you joke. I don't be at no port when guns coming in. I am sure cowboys and Indians, no, don't spot it on me, you idiot. When taxpayers' money waste, don't spot it in my face. You better spot the light man who run the place. I don't run the government, I know if the computer. Don't spot it on me, Bozy. Spot the light man the BLT. Oh yeah, yeah. Aye, aye, aye. Balaka, balaka. Blinding you with the LEDs. Them said are doing as they please. Don't tell the authorities I feel violated. Go spot them in the treasury, then you will see if the economy living off borrowed money that IMF dictated. Light is a great disinfectant. Use it, don't abuse it at night, cause all that hide in the darkness must come out in the light. Spot the light in the board meetings and see who is representing you or the rich minority. I want you spot the light in the right places and find out who is standing up for you or just running them out. Don't spot it on me, no way. I don't have any clout, no power, no say, but hey, and I ain't got no land to give away. Don't spot it on me, you idiot. One for you, another one quick, don't target me one bit. You better spot the light on the cabinet. I may drive and get annoyed, check my front and touch a boy. Don't spot it on me, you insane. You spot the light in the wrong lane. Why, yeah, yeah. Aye, aye, aye. Balaka, balaka. When you see me on the road at night, make sure that you dim your light. I give you valuable insight. Time for activation. Aim the light, aim it all about. Human cockroaches running out, places you would never dream about. Need illumination. Wickedness reside in high places. Time for you to make wrong things right. Corruption is hiding dark spaces. In Barbados, let there be light. Spot the light on the police, you can choose. Some are real professional, some protect the shoes. Spot the light in the courtrooms and find out why them hardened criminals bout here walking bout. Don't spot it on me, you freak. I can't give a big speech and got the whole world, so I'm based. Although I still getting praise, don't spot it on me, you creep. I ain't looking to get that George Street. I know who get cussed or beat. Spot the light out in Robert Street. I never tried to meet with Trump or get sick, fill up man to jam. Don't spot it on me, you're good. Spot the light in Ella Rapport. Crime out here getting worse. Spot the light on the AG first. I ain't laughing out none. Spot the light on the Kaisonian. Admiral might agree. Spot the light by my friend Gabby. I know what good for my health. Spot the light by a blinking self.
Good night, Barbados. Spot the light, spot the light, spot the light. And tonight I have with me a co-host, folks. Good night. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. And let me let you see my co-host tonight. The one and only Maxine.
Hi, good evening, Marcia. I saw you spotted the light on me.
You say you saw spotted the light, are you? Well, I didn't say it. Classic said, "Spot the light on the BLP." That is, I didn't say it, Miss McLean.
Well, a
Miss,
good evening to you, and your voice is sounding a little bit better. I'm happy to hear that.
yes, yes, and you're here tonight to help me. I'm so happy to have you. And listen, we have over 312 persons already signed on, Miss McLean.
Very good, very good. The numbers have been looking good. Well, outside of the numbers, let me say that the comments, as I told you previously, I can't go anywhere, whether it is in my car park, at church, supermarket, in the bank, wherever. People compliment the show. And the important thing is they say that they're learning a lot about things about Barbados, whether it's politics, other kinds of issues that are raised. And I think that that is important for anybody who wants to be a naysayer. I say to them, talk to the people who watch the show nightly, whether it's here or overseas, and not even only Barbadians overseas. Other people watch the show.
And the show she's talking about is the Marcia Week show, which exists to educate, to motivate, to mobilize, to agitate. And that's what we have been doing for the past 5 years. And I want to just welcome those who have come on tonight. There's Teroni Hall. Teroni, I know you tell me a lot of times how you get educated on the show. Monica
Yes.
Inch is here.
Okay, let me help you. Nigel
Yes.
Carrington, and he's saying good night to all. Judy Jilts, faithful viewer, and I'm sure that she spreads the news of the show. Good evening to you, and thanks to see you again. Lucinda Aline, blessings to all. Good evening. Beijing Boy, how are you? Shirley, good evening to you as well. Sandra Brewster, another familiar name. Marcia, your namesake, and my sister's namesake. I have a sister called Marcia, as you know. Queen D, good evening to you too. Marcia Miller, we have a second Marcia. And hi to Ms. Miller. Good to see you online. V Hoy, one of the ladies of the evening. Good evening to you. We know that you are a faithful, and I talk about faith, and here comes Joyanne Faith. Good night to you, and we're happy that you're joining us. And let's say that as Born Again at 48 joins us and wishes us a blessed night. Just share, like, and share. Green Sandra, Evergreen, I trust. Born Again, these are some of the people. And there's a Carol, hello to you too. And of course, I know Marcia will tell us when it is time. Lyric Lewis Jokes.
Yes.
A good evening to you. Tony Paris, happy to have you with us. Flo Joe Maloney, Sandra Brewster. So, Marcia, M. Gardner, these names are familiar to you, I'm sure. Sobers, Shirley,
wow.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back. I watch the show and I stay in touch. I like and share every night. Let me put it that way. Well, I am back. I am back. When you give people a chance to miss you.
Yes. Well, to let them know you were doing party. You were taking
duties.
Care of your party.
Yes, I had party duties to do, and other duties have been taken on. Some other work. I'll tell you about that one of these days. Thanks, Jefferson. Good to be here again. Maria Watson, and like you said, like and share. Tony. Marcia, he's calling for your spotlight.
I'm going to spot it on Miss McLean. I spotted it.
My eyes are closed.
Well, Classic says spot it on your blinking self.
So turn it around. It might cause you to blink. Oh, thanks. It's good to be here. As I said, we're laughing, but so much is happening. I had last week 4 funerals, 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There were 4 people who I managed to either get to the funeral or pay their respects. And what I want to say, Marcia, on a very personal note, one of those funerals I attended, the person who passed, he and I had planned to attend one of the other funerals. Check that. that's a very serious thing. And it really reminded me that we have to take this life very seriously. And that was, in fact, that was the final conversation I had with the gentleman, a good friend of mine for more than 4 decades. And it was a reminder, a stark reminder that we have to live this life with purpose. And I say thank you to you because, you know, as I listen to you straining your voice, because, you know, but it seems to be something, you know, I don't know if it's the weather or whatever. A couple of people are having issues with their sinuses, which causes voices to, you know, but I hope people appreciate what you do and how seriously you take what you do to make sure that you don't miss, you know, a show. And so I thank you. So when you call me, how can I say no to you?
Well, you know, I mean, getting a compliment like that from you, Miss McLean, you know, it means a lot because I watch you and I see how you work selflessly for Barbados, regardless of party. And I, you know, I thank you that I know that I could call you last minute because I thought I would have been totally well by now. And you were this morning, you're on your way to church. You said, all right, you know, can we get Glenn? And then when we reach out to Glenn, you said, I could do it if Glenn is doing it with me because I wasn't coming on at all. And then what happened? Glenn says what?
And we have to apologize. I mean, we have to apologize. We were hoping to have Glenn. Well, certainly to wish him well. He's a little bit under the weather. And I think literally this weather has people a little bit covered. There's been some Sahara dust around, and generally the weather, you know, we getting rains and hot days and so on. And it is, I mean, my sinuses tell me that, you know, so I wish him well. And I know that he loves to be here. And he really puts in an effort, but we all do. I think we all take this very seriously. And I just want to remind people that nobody pays Marcia, nobody pays Dave, nor me, nor any of the people around.
Miss
Please
Murray.
call me Maxine. I don't know what your sister call me Miss McLean, but we talk about that.
And by the way, as you mentioned that Mr. Murray is going to kill me for this, but he has a birthday coming up. Last time he would not tell me his birthday, but I know how to reach his wife now, so I'm going to find out.
Well, I can tell you about mine because mine has gone.
Oh my gosh.
Mine was the 17th. Actually, you know,
of May.
Yes, 17th. And today, Marcia, would have been the day that both my parents died 6 years apart. 25th of May. And I had a brother who was born on the 25th of May. I never knew him. He died as a baby, but he was before me. So this month is special to me. We call it the month of beginnings and endings in my family. And it very much so. So we will find out when Glenn's birthday is because we need to celebrate these things, you know?
Yeah, so. Definitely. Well, we're going to celebrate Barbados right now because we're going to go right into our national anthem. And Miss McLean, that we are the loyal opposition. And this is what we line up. This is a song. This is our call. This is a song that we are line the national anthem of Barbados. Very, very important. And I asked everybody, I can't sing it tonight. I usually sing it when it's being played, but those of you who can't sing, to sing along and stand to attention. Thank you so much.
I certainly will not sing with the mic on, but
not with the mic on.
I will turn off my mic.
Get ready for the national anthem of Barbados.
Who
yes. The part of this anthem, Miss McLean, that really every time I hear it, it means so much to me. Is we write our names on history's page
With
with
expect.
expectations. Great. And I believe we are making history right now. We are making history. Miss McLean, we came and we on the show when there was no opposition, nobody in the parliament, nobody had crossed at the time. Mr. Thorne hadn't crossed, and we declared ourselves the opposition, the people of Barbados, and that is history. We are history makers.
That's
And
great.
yes, and when what's your favorite line, verse in the or lyric in the
In the
anthem?
No, I think that is what I would support that, because it really says to me, this is what we as a people in this small nation, what we are seeking to do. Write our names on history's page, make a difference, say something, do something which should create some kind of legacy. And when I say legacy, it may very well be about setting an example to your children, your grandchildren, the people with whom you interact, your neighbors, or it may be something big, being a leader in an organization, whether it be business, religion, politics, professions. And I just think it is, and the whole notion that we're strict guardians, I don't know that I can call a favorite part of the, because there's so many. When you go through the lyrics and you understand, let me put it in my terms. When I listen to it, I read them or hear them, I am reminded about what it means to be a citizen. And I may be in a philosophical mood or whatever, talking about life and death, because as I said to you and I'll give you the date, on the 5th of May, I had the last conversation with a friend. And this is a friend who loved to talk politics, and our conversations always were very long conversations. And, sometimes if I were busy, I would say, okay, I'm going to call back the person. And I said to myself, I didn't take that call. And the last conversation we had was about the uncertainty of life and the necessity to live life as a good human being. And then we were discussing his family and how important his wife was as a partner for life, and what wonderful children he had. I was complimenting him on his children. He was talking to me about his wife, because we were discussing an issue that was troubling for him. And, and I said to myself, we get here and people would want to abuse you because you do the work you do, rather than appreciate. Now, here is a woman who is giving a lot. Her, you and your husband and all the people who deem it necessary to share in a process of educating and informing Barbadians. And I tell people, the parties and politics is a reality, but that is not what this show is about. And I tell people when I come on this show, that is not what I'm about. Yes, I have been part of the political system, and I would say I still am. But when I come here, I recognize the importance of the work you do, and I would not do anything to diminish that. And that is, that is from my heart. And I don't.
And that's what you do. That's what you do.
To please anybody or to create an impression.
Yeah.
That is what it is. And when you, I suppose, when you lose, when a child is born, this is for me, or a person dies, it just reminds me of why we are here. And that's me, and I really, really want to acknowledge your contribution, because a lot of people try to minimize that and to disrespect it. But I say to persons, try doing what Marcy and Dave do, and then talk to me. Anyhow, enough.
And we're following in the footsteps of the people like yourself, Glenn Murray, and you mean when Caswell Franklin, we've learned so much from you all, because you were the ones in politics. and we came on as babies, and we've learned. Dr. Ferdinand has been very faithful as well,
Yeah,
and we're all students. You have Rose Corbin, and you have Stephen Strickland, who is going to be on tonight talking to us
yes.
about the NIS. Who actually, Caswell Franklin is who connected us to Stephen Strickland, and look at that. And Stephen he's on his vacation, but because of what's happening in Barbados, again, because of that, desire to serve the country. Here I called him today. I said, I know you're on your vacation, but listen, people are calling on this particular topic. Can you? And he says, okay, I'll be on at 8:30. So, which leads me into our topic this evening. $300 today, higher fuel prices, and NIS deductions tomorrow. So today is $300, and then our government decides by the next day there are higher fuel prices and then higher NIS deductions. All right?
Right.
And the big question is this the real cost of a vote? Is this the real cost of a vote? And we're going to discuss the higher fuel prices, the NIS deductions. We're going to look at that, and we're going to look at it, in the look at it in terms of what has happened with the IMF and our decision. The government's decision to take us to IMF. We're gonna look at that. But before we do, Miss McLean, this weekend, believe it or not, I'm supposed to be resting, but it's resting for me when I'm helping people. We went into various communities in Barbados, and once again, I cannot see this trickle down of this bounty that the governor of the central bank is speaking of, and that the prime minister is trying to convince us about. This trickling down. We were in Hastings. We're in all these different places. We were in not Hastings. What am I saying, Dave? Haynesville.
Painesville. Okay, that's
Yes, we
amazing.
were in
Yeah.
Haynesville. We were in different parts of St. James. We went to St. Lucie. We were driving around. This is with Gospelfest. Now,
Right.
we were going with Gospelfest to these different places, and even in St. Lucie, to see the people with their walking with their buckets, and I don't understand. I mean, we've given out $39 million. I'm wondering if any of that could have been used to, seriously, materially help the people of St. Lucie, and I saw it, Miss McLean. I saw the hurt in people's eyes. And I wonder, Miss McLean, if some of these politicians that's talking about this trickle down of this bounty, if they go into these communities, it's rather sad to hear the stories.
I keep telling people that, and people will say to you, they will respond to you, but there's a show in Barbados, somebody pays $500 to go. That's not the person that you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, one of the things that we have to be very careful about, and in fact, I was reading an article when as soon as you tell me something, I go and start to read. And I was reading an article, Oxfam, which is a charity, a British charity. They would have done some research on the IMF, for example. And one of the findings, because I'm not going to spend a long time going to, but anybody wants, I can give you the reference later. Oxfam is saying that in a lot of situations, the programs of the IMF lead to great inequalities, economic inequalities, and so on. So the reason for that is that a lot of the programs talk about government undertaking austerity measures, and a typical way of reducing government's expenditure is to cut back on the provision of a range of services, And so you go, and while they're cutting back on expenditures, they're increasing bus fares, for example, we know would have gone up significantly since the government entered into that arrangement. And whether we like it or not, the average person who has to pay bus fare is a person who is on the lower earnings scale, who are earning the smaller levels of wages, etc. So the reality is that there is hardship out there. And we cannot pretend it away. The question is, how do we address it in a way that people are not alienated? Because you see, you talk about the hardship, but we also start to see, I mean, I received in the last 2 or 3 days information about robberies, about persons in this neighborhood, prowlers and all kinds of things. And then you ask yourself, what really pushes a young man, probably under 30 years old, to risk his life? Because nowadays, I mean, they come, but they're staring into your cameras so you can identify them often. What is happening? Is it just people are just lawless, or are people just struggling? And I'm not suggesting that the only way out, if you're struggling, is to get into crime. But there's a connection. And the question, therefore, is how must we address that with alacrity and, and address it speedily? Because, and you mentioned that $39 million, that's $300 to everybody. There are people who, and I will say this, who do not need to get that if it means taking it and putting it into more targeted use to address some very serious problems.
And that's a good point that you made, because I thought of that when I heard the stories that people were telling us yesterday. And people, I remember I was with a young man, he's 20 something, and he told me he just felt like crying. They got overwhelmed by what they were hearing. And I say to everybody who believe that that all is so rosy and dandy, go into some of our communities, go in and listen to them. But I want to show you some of what we did yesterday. So we had a mic on the move, and so we're going to go into that a little bit. And let me just say that this idea is from Adrian Agard, and he's the executive producer and founder of Gospelfest Barbados, and which is actually started today and goes to June 1st. And if you go to their website, you'll see all the different events that they have that's coming up. And we went and this there's a song, Miss McLean, that it's called The Goodness of God.
Yes.
Right? I will sing of the goodness of God. Anybody out there know it? Any of the viewers? And he said to me that he felt, that he wanted to go into the communities and to just let the people sing the song, because everybody knows it, right? Where it says, I will sing of the goodness of God. He says everybody knows it.
God,
and like that, people were coming out of their homes, people are on the construction side, people were cleaning. And you know what it meant, Miss McLean, that every person who came up to that microphone, every single one of them, it meant that they experienced God's goodness.
Yes.
So even though we saw a lot of poverty and we heard the stories of a lot of poverty, we also heard people saying, look, but God helped me through it.
There's hope.
There's hope. And they were, they were identifying God as their hope. So Dave, if you could go, this is a Gospelfest website. But Dave, if you could go ahead and let's play that. Thank you.
Gospelfest 2025. Gospelfest 2025.
This one cannot give me peace, cannot give me joy, cannot give me happiness. I am going back. This one cannot give me peace, cannot give me joy, cannot give me happiness.
You have led me to the fire. I know you are good, and I will the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. And every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Come cross, get cross here, so go and say the goodness of God. God, get up out of the school. Come. Get the religious aspect of life. Baby, you're the singer. Come on, sing it. Don't do that. Come on, baby, you can sing. Come on, sing it. You can sing it from a baby.
All my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. Every day that I have made, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
You have led me to the fire. In the darkest night, you were close like no other. I know you as a father. I know you as a friend. I love you. It's the goodness of God. For my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Well, you don't know walking the road singing the song for your next gap.
All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. Every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Hallelujah.
Bless you.
Thank you so much.
You know that, why you like that song? Why do you like that song?
It's big one.
It's a very touching and
Yeah, you sing it at home? Wow.
Situations, I sing. It's good. Yeah, trust me. I might be a black person, but the music together more than
Amen.
my blacks.
Yes.
like what you say.
fire. You are close like no other. I know you as a father. I know you as a friend. In the wilderness of God. It's all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. And I give back the night I see all the goodness of God. It's running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. My mind laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything, oh Lord. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. It's running after, I will be in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. Ah, boy. All my life you have been so with every breath that I am breathing, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your voice, you have led me through the fire and darkness night. You are close like no other. I know you as a father. I know you as a friend. And I will sing of the goodness of God. Drink it up, drink it up. From the river of the living water. Drink it up, drink it up. Look at that. Never stop from my father. I'm pressing really to the sky. I know I'm loving him. That's steal my joy. Did not let nobody steal his joy. I did. I'll let you know. You coming close, okay? You got one already. You got one tickets already? You got one already. Oh, you got one already? Yeah. All right, cool. Okay.
Well, that's just a little piece of what happened yesterday with Mike on the Move with Gospelfest. And I tell you, the people, they realize, I think that because it's so hard, I know you're getting ready to talk about the impact of the IMF on on just us as citizens, in Barbados. And a lot of people, as tough and rough as you see them, they are turning their hearts to God, depending on God, because that's where the hope is. Well, let me move out of the way and let you go right into that session, Miss McLean.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. In looking at this, and the reason I think we need to just have a conversation. Recently, the government announced that they had ended their agreement with the IMF, what they would have called a staff level agreement, some under their extended fund facility. This would have gone back to 2018,
Yes.
and I think basically at the heart of the exercise, what government was seeking to do was to address, the issue of the debt situation, and I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible because I don't want to get into economic jargon. Basically, what government did was to turn to the IMF to access loans under the arrangement with members, and as part of that, the corollary, or the on the other side, government had to make commitments to undertake certain measures, to put certain measures in place. And at the heart of it, of course, we saw a number of measures intended to reduce government expenditure. In several ways. And we know that in this part of the world, government spend, certainly in the case of the Barbados government, we spend a lot of money on public services, health, education, maintenance of public works, the operation of a number of entities. We talk about our statutory corporations and so on, where government transfers funds for those operations. And they made a number of decisions. And one of the obvious consequences was the imposition of a whole slew of taxes. And you mentioned the giving on the one hand of $300. So this whole austerity, as they call it, this decision on the part of government to tighten the reins on expenditures, etc. And I say that in quotation because I'll come back in a minute and probably identify what I see to be a contradiction. So government, first of all, we know very early o'clock bus fares went up to $3.50. And that, some people may say in other parts of the world you pay more, but think about it. In a lot of instances, Barbadians have to take two buses. Let's say somebody's coming from St. Philip in the south or St. Lucie in the north and coming to work, on either extreme, or even once you come into town, you may have to take a bus you may not get a bus directly from if you're working somewhere, let's say you work in Warrens,
Mm-hmm.
and you live in St. Philip or you live in St. Lucie, you may have to take a bus which takes you, in the case of St. Philip, to town, and then take a bus to Warrens. And that is $7 getting to work,
Yes.
and $7 getting home, which is $14. And then if you're working 5 days a week, 5 4s are 25, $70 a week in bus fare. And that has nothing to do with lunch. And if you are working as a store clerk or something, and you have a net pay of about $300, or some people may even have a gross, pay of $350 or something. And so,
Ms. Buckley, let me just tell you this, that I had just quickly, and I want to involve the viewers. Viewers, if you're paying $70 a week in bus fare, put a thumbs up for me, because I've had people that I've offered a job at my school and they said, "Ma'am, it's 2 buses," just like what you said, and I can't afford it. So I just wanted to say that. I think what you're doing is awesome, breaking it down.
yeah,
Continue.
you see, and so when you start to break it down, $70, even if that person is working for $400 a week gross,
Mm-hmm.
Stephen will tell you when later on, and you may make a note of this, $400, what has traditionally been the national insurance, because one of the other things that I would come to. In fact, I would raise it now since I'm talking about salaries. So in addition to the bus fare at the very beginning, close to the end, recently government introduced another imposition as part of the national insurance deduction. And this is a special levy. I think Stephen will give us the correct terms and so on. But so you're paying an additional set of money out of your pay for national insurance, and there's a particular fund in addition to the other national insurance. So when I say that somebody who has to take 2 buses paying $70, that is only part of what comes up before that person can think in terms of what I have to pay for my electricity, what I have to pay for my water. And we know that there is also an imposition in relation to the water. What people are paying now is this that sewage tax that is on there, and garbage and sewage tax that goes on. That levy goes on, and it is collected by the water authority, and it has to be paid. And I believe that comes out first, so that you can say to the water authority, I don't have enough money this week to spend on, to pay my entire bill. So I'm going to pay a part, and I want to pay my water bill first and defer payment of that. It cannot work like that. So the point that I'm making is that when we looked at what was agreed to by the government, we had that. The other thing that you mentioned there, because I'm trying to link it with the topic you had for the night, is the whole issue of the cost of fuel and what we are paying instead of a fixed annual sum of money for road taxes for your vehicle. You are now paying every time you go to the pump. And anybody who has done any calculations would discover that what has happened is that they are actually paying perhaps multiple times, maybe double or even more, depending on how much you drive on this gasoline tax. And imagine if it is a percentage, it goes on per liter and so on. But that is an expense. But then what we have is a situation where most recently we have seen an increase in the price of gasoline and related products. And what is mystifying is that, and I think we would have heard presentations made by, I think Senator Walters was one of the more recent ones I heard, talking about the whole issue of gasoline prices. Typically, there's an adjustment that is not new, but the adjustment typically can be seen as reflecting the changes in prices. So when there's an upward change in price, you see a change. What has happened in recent months, for several months, we have seen downward prices, but there was no adjustment. And now at a time when prices seem to be falling globally, there's no this increase. Now, let me go back to what Angel Humble had said there about that resilience. The name was there just now, the resilience, that resilience and regeneration fund. The interesting thing about this is that in calculating national insurance, impositions, what is paid on national insurance, there was an upper ceiling. So there was a maximum that you earn. My understanding of this is that it would apply not up to a maximum, but across the income. But we will let Stephen explain that. The implications of that, of course, is that the actual amount paid can be pretty high for some people. And then there is also not a requirement that employers pay this as well, and there is no upper ceiling. So in talking to Stephen later on, he can help us to understand the true impact. But at the end of the day, what this is really doing as a consequence of its imposition is that people are now having to pay additional amounts of money to national insurance and to a special fund. and it is really becoming extremely burdensome, you know. And in fact, I'm looking at a chart in front of me here,
Yeah,
and it talks about gas prices, and it would be interesting to see how
yeah,
Barbados compares, because
yeah.
you know, and so really, and
Actually,
yeah,
you said about how Barbados
mhm,
compares first to the Caribbean.
right,
So Barbados has the highest fuel prices in the entire Caribbean.
okay,
That's a fact because look at us all the way down here. A dollar,
one nine
1.927.
two seven, yes,
Right, that
that's
is
per liter,
Barbados there.
and that's
Yes,
probably that would be U.S. dollars,
US dollars per, yeah,
hmm,
right? That is US dollars, right? So that's
hmm,
almost what $4. Four
right,
Barbados dollars. And if we look at the top here of this chart. So those of you who have just joined us, so we've put the chart that we've put up is a chart that shows the fuel prices throughout the world, right? And Barbados, I mean, it's like it's almost in the. I think it seemed like in the top 10
yes,
in terms of,
yeah,
yeah, gasoline price liter per liter. That's the 19th of May,
right. So that's
2025.
recent. That's
That's
days
recent.
ago.
So Libya, theirs is 0.027 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Iran is 0.029. Miss McLean. Venezuela, well, we know for Venezuela,
Right.
0.035. Right? Then you have Nigeria, all of these. Any Caribbean islands there yet, Dave? Come down
I'm
some more.
looking. Come down further.
Anything, Miss? Okay,
Guyana is
Stop
the
there.
first
Stop there.
country. Yeah,
Yes, the
Guyana is
first
88
country. So,
cents.
yeah,
About
we got
89 cents when you round it. Puerto
89
Rico is
cents.
90 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Further down, Panama is 90,
Oh, David's showing us that US is
91,
91
91
cents.
cents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
91.
Keep going, David. Looking for Caribbean countries. Haiti, Haiti,
Haiti is
Haiti.
$1.13
I don't
approximately.
understand. Haiti is a dollar and
Grenada,
13 cents. Yeah. Go
Grenada
ahead.
is 1.154. Suriname is 1.16.
Trinidad is
One ele- one
1.143. A dollar and 14
14,
cents.
14, almost
Okay.
1.15. Yeah. Jamaica is 122.3
122.
cents.
This is US, a dollar
Yeah,
22 US and
yes.
multiply it by two.
Cuba is 129. We can round that to 130,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
US.
Dominica is 133 if you round it up.
Yes, US
St. Lucia
dollars.
is 134. Costa Rica is 137 rounded up. Bahamas is 145 when you round it off. So it tells them there's Barbados all the way to the bottom,
Bottom. So Dave, count
190.
count how many countries to the bottom, Dave. From the
1,
bottom
2,
up.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Barbados is like 13 from the bottom. It looks like if I count it correctly.
Yeah.
Barbados, Finland, Greece, Norway, Albania, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Israel, Netherlands, Singapore, Denmark, Iceland, Hong Kong.
And the thing is, Miss McLean, somebody is in the comment section. I think it was Noel, and he's blaming the businesses. To say it's the business's fault why the price of the gasoline is
Which
so high.
businesses? Which
And,
business?
and there's another document that but go ahead and
No,
speak to
I'm trying
Noel.
to figure out which businesses he's blaming. The purchase of oil. The question we would have to ask is who purchases the oil? How are oil prices negotiated? How are oil prices set in the context of Barbados? And what triggers a change in prices? And I know I can tell you I don't have the details of the formula before. As far as I know, there still exists a formula for computing the prices based on prevailing prices that we pay and we negotiate, etc. But what I find strange is that we move from a situation where there was what I would describe as fairly frequent adjustments. They might be small, and some people might say, but you adjust it by 2 cents or 2 and 3 cents or something. But at the end of the day, if I am operating a taxi business or a moving company that does freighting, and I have multiple vehicles and so on, all of those cents would add up, and even for individuals. So, but the question is, what has changed from my mind in terms of the method for setting prices, the factors that would trigger a change? Because we have seen it stuck at a pretty high price, higher price for long.
Right.
And I know, as I said before, that Senator Walters was using some analysis to show why the prices should probably have gone down.
Yeah, but if I could say something there, because that's a little bit, I did a little reading on that, Ms. McLean. And Senator Walters is going to join us on Wednesday. He told me he's going to be here 8 o'clock on Wednesday. But in a broad sense, what he was saying is that, as you see on the screen here, that prices differ across countries for 4 different reasons.
Right.
One is the crude oil cost, right? So the fuel price is broken down. Noel and the others, if you could just stop, pause for a moment, because I see the chat is going, and let's just, we could learn something right now, because some of you are wrong in the chat. Okay, so the fuel price can be broken down into these major components: crude oil cost, refining cost. There's a distribution cost, which is the wholesale and retail. But then there are taxes, excise, VAT, or sales tax,
etc. Yes.
Now, if you notice what we had, Ms. McLean, the article that Dave had up before that says that in the UK prices are going down. They fall further, right? Because at the source the prices drop. Right, the oil prices dropped at the source. So when it gets to the UK, they're able then to drop the prices, right? Because they bought it. They would have bought it at a lower price. When it comes to Barbados, my understanding is that we have a tax, basically a tax that is put on the fuel. And what Mr. Senator Walters is saying is that it is the government, Barbados government, that is refusing to remove
or reduce
it. So there's no fluctuation that is happening, So while in the US, they at the pump, they are experiencing a reduced cost. Here in Barbados, we're not. And the only reason is that the government refuses to reduce their taxes. So I just wanted to give that general overview of exactly what Mr. Walters is saying.
And then in on top of those taxes, we had the additional, the excise tax and VAT. We had that levy, which is supposed to replace the road tax on vehicles. And so that is a continuing. So, for example, if I pay $365 or whatever it was previously, if you calculate based on how many liters you put in on any given period on a monthly basis or whatever, then you realize that, as I said, some people pay double or more, depending on how much you drive and how fuel efficient your vehicle is, etc. So at the end of the day, the point you're making is that when we look at the components of the price, there are elements that are within the control of government that they can adjust in order to make it easier for the consumer. So in other words, when and you see, when the taxes were calculated on a percentage of the base price, and the price of the crude oil and so on. So when prices go up, then there's an increase in what government makes, which allows them even more leeway to modify the
Yes.
taxes they have, because at the end of the
Exactly.
day, the higher the price is, the more taxes the government is able to collect. So
Yeah.
maybe when you think about it, they talk about corporate taxes, but think about the $300 that you mentioned before. Where is that coming from? Or if they've given you that from a particular place, would it also make sense to look at perhaps reducing some of those taxes, so that there's this, because this one-off $300, it will help somebody in the immediate future. I mean, not the immediate future, at the moment, are receiving it. It may help somebody to pay for groceries or whatever. But think of a person who a taxi driver, or even those people who do not have vehicles, because if you're operating a lawnmower and you go to buy gasoline, you're paying that tax. If you're a
Yes.
fishing boat operator and you're
Correct.
buying diesel, you're paying that tax as well. And so it falls on everybody to pay. So it is an issue. And then we're only talking about the final consumer. Think about a manufacturer who has to buy fuel to deliver his manufactured goods to the supermarket or whatever. They're going to pass it on.
But I have a question, Ms. McLean. I'm saying that if the government is saying to us, and viewers, let's think about this. If they're saying to us that we have a bounty, and it is out of that bounty that they are picking up $300 and giving to everybody, even those that don't need it, why wouldn't they want to, as the other countries are doing, majority of the countries are doing, why wouldn't they want to reduce that tax at the pump? If all around the world, Ms. McLean, the price of oil has dropped, it's at an all-time low, why wouldn't the government want that section of the price that they can of oil that they can control? If there is bounty and they care about the people, the man that is running the lawnmower, or his little, they're cutting the grass, what you call that thing,
Yes.
the weed whacker. What about, they have to buy gas. So why couldn't they, Miss McLean, why weren't they doing that?
Well, I would say that I am sure that if we get the numbers, because people have been asking for, and I suppose you can go, it's probably reported somewhere, you would see that the amount of taxes collected is no small amount. So government is probably very happy to have access to that revenue. Forgetting, of course, that they can get access to revenue a somewhat different way if they reduce that. Because if people pay less, chances are that the vast majority of people will end up consuming with those savings. So a significant part will be subject to VAT, and so they will still get the taxes, but there's the distribution of that. It impacts the person's disposable income, the amount of money that a man or a woman has to spend on himself or herself or their children or whatever the case may be. But I think that, I can put it in a very basic way, the tax revenue must be too sweet to let go, So in essence, government sees it. Now, one of the things that I wanted to say, Marcia, as we were talking, and as I made that comment about the revenue being too sweet to let go, one of the concerns that I have as we talk about the imposition of a slew of taxes following this IMF agreement is that in the face of all of those increased revenues and the burden that it places on the citizen, it is a travesty to see the level of wastage that there has been. And I say that without any hesitation, because if you look, and we talked about housing and the $60 million with the Hope housing and so on. And so one of the questions you really have to ask when we start to look at a cross-section of government projects, are we happy as citizens to pay higher taxes if and when there is evidence that a lot of money has been wasted with little or nothing to show for it. In
Yeah.
other words, we are paying all of these additional taxes, but we are not seeing the benefits of those taxes.
Yes.
You know, and I would give you an example. I saw a clip today, which this morning, one of the first things I saw when I looked at my WhatsApp messages was a photo of what is supposed to be a meal offered to patients at the hospital yesterday. And the reason why I would believe that it is the case, I was told yesterday by somebody that the person said the stove, but I would not imagine that the hospital has a stove in its kitchen as an industrial kitchen preparing meals. But according to the person, the stove at the hospital wasn't working, and the government had to contract out the provision of some meal or meals. I don't know if it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner or just whatever. But the picture that I saw was of something that looked like two what you call them now, quiches, a quiche, you know, where you have like that cheese thing with a filling or whatever. It looked like two of those. Some sliced cucumber looked like it might have been pickled, and two biscuits, biscuits, sweet biscuits with cream, you know, the double ones. Two of those, which would be four biscuits when you separate them. And I am asking myself, who should be eating that as a patient?
But the question is, Ms. McLean, why should we not have the stove working at the hospital? Viewers, why should we have the stove not working at the hospital? And we have just given out $39 million to people. I'm not claiming my $300. In fact, I think, Dave, we gave it away.
I was gonna say I know definitely that Dave sent it to be used elsewhere.
Elsewhere. There are lots of people who they don't need the $300. When I'm saying, Miss McLean, why should a stove? Are you listening, Barbadians? Why should a stove not be working at the General Hospital of Barbados? We only have one. We have one hospital. Do you think that is okay? Are you okay with that?
But even, and in addition to the $39 million, which you could have reduced even if you felt that there were people who needed that, because if you have overtaxed me or caused me to be overtaxed and you give back, that is, but what is worse is that you have clear areas of need. But also remember that there has also been an imposition intended for the hospital. Now, my big problem, Marcia, is that and this is to you and to the loyal opposition, we have had a situation where this administration has reverted to the use of a series of levies. Caswell Franklin has spoken about it here on this program, where monies are being collected in the form of levies and fees or whatever, intended for the hospital, intended for Sanitation Service Authority, which does not go to the consolidated fund, and which therefore we are not easily able, in the absence of timely reporting, we are not easily able to know what amounts of money have been collected, and more importantly, how is it being spent? How is it being spent? Because the charge on fuel is a clear example. That's supposed to go to certain projects. Are we getting reporting, accurate and timely reports? I say no. Certainly we are not seeing the reports that we should. And I believe that if there is if, for example, the government is saying we want to make sure that this money is channeled directly, then we should also be able to get timely reports. It's as if I chose an organization to receive funds for a project, I would expect that the project managers, and in fact, most grant funding entities require this, that the project managers report. First of all, you are given funds earmarked for very specific things, and you have to demonstrate that you have utilized those funds in the areas. And you have to further demonstrate at the end of the day that if you've gotten money to do this, the expectation is that the outcomes or impacts or deliverables, call it whatever you want, are achieved, and you report on those things. But these monies are going into God knows where, being utilized, because at the end of the day, if we think in terms of our situation, you know, we have heard of and we've seen the acquisition of buses, etc. But I have it on good authority, and I know that this was challenged, but I went back and asked, because that we have brought, two things are happening. We have bought buses, which one has to question whether the roads that we have are good to these vehicles, or whether they are creating problems, one.
Yeah.
And two, whether because the electric buses, I understand, and my understanding is that the charging time is such that you do not have the maximally efficient use of those buses. In other words, if a vehicle has this is what I was talking about, Marcia. Now, I would want the hospital authorities to tell me, one, that this is not something that was served to patients. I would like to know what's in because that doesn't look like a standard quiche. It looks a little weird. So I would like someone to tell us whether, in fact, this was served to patients. And two, if it were served to patients, what meal it was supposed to be. Is this a snack? Or was this supper or lunch? It can't be breakfast, I don't think. And if this was the full extent of the meal, because this
it is supposed so the question we're asking, is it true that it was breakfast?
I don't know what meal. I think the person was saying dinner in the WhatsApp message. If I could check it and see what the message, I think the person said this was served as dinner. But my thing is, was it a meal served at the hospital in the first place? And I'm asking which meal, because
which meal it is. But this is what I'm saying to Barbadians, because what is being what the Prime Minister is saying is that the people want the people want this government to stay in. This is what is being said. And I want those of you who are listening, because I know I met somebody who told me I am a BLP and I watched the show. I met her today. And so I want you, all of you who are listening, are you happy with this kind of government? You have your home and you govern your home. You get your salary and you figure out, this I get, however much a month, and you figure out how much your grocery, how much for light bill, how much of water. You manage your finances. We're saying of the government, how are you managing the finances? Because you have just said that we have a bounty. You just said that you are giving us, everybody over 18 years and over, $300 because you have a bounty. But it is alleged that this is a meal from the QEH. The question is this really a meal from the QEH? And is it true that the stove at the QEH is not working? Do you understand that? Think about it, your home. Think about your home and how you manage your home. And if you're going to take up money, Miss McLean, and you have children, and you said you're going to give them something extra, right? It is that you would have known that you have done what you needed to do. The basic things would have been covered, right?
Of course. It says supper at QEH last evening at QEH Hospital. So there's supposed to be supper. So tell us if that's what you're serving. Now, and you're correct, because as I said, I am happy for people to get the $300 because in a lot of instances, we have been overtaxed. I mean, the temporary increase in VAT, there was a promise to remove the 2.5%. That has not been done. Far from doing that, government went and wrote off a whole set of money, early in the term, VAT collected. And so these are the kind of things that aggravate, because they're when I talk about contradictions, so really and truly, as you said, I'm happy for people who need it, but at the end of the day, you perhaps can give them more than $300, though it will be indirectly, in the sense that if you reduce the taxes at the pump, you revisit the VAT, and you revisit some of those other impositions. Then and beyond that, if you are efficient in spending and spending on the right things and achieving what it is you set out to achieve, which is intended to benefit the citizen, then you are happy. I tell people, I grew up in a country where we have consistently, from the time I started to work, you were paying taxes. I started paying national insurance at 18 years old, and I understood why you were paying that and why you were paying income tax, because you saw and you continue to see where those monies go. But when you see those things increasing and there is wastage and so on, you ask yourself, is it fair that these things continue to increase and be added on and so on, and then there's no clear explanation and so on? Go ahead.
I asked Dave to look for the number of taxes because just the other day, there was a speaker who was, I can't remember the name of the speaker. It was David Estwick, actually.
Dr.
David Estwick, and he was going through the taxes, and I counted about 16.
There were about
taxes, about 16 taxes, and the reality is this, that it's a fact. We have never been taxed like this before. Never had this many taxes. Reality. Somebody here is saying that if they, their BLP and how this choir will come down on them. But comment about what is on the screen now, and don't come and curse people.
Mar,
comment on what you see on the screen. Is this correct to be served? If it was served at the QH, is this correct? Why then the QH doesn't have a working stove? Is that good management? Those are the things that you need to comment on. Go ahead, Mr.
Ask the person. I see, and this is where people need to stop being partisan. I would have a problem if this was served when I was involved in government. I look at that. We have a high incidence of diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and all of these things. I am not sure whether, I ask the questions because, and I have had to be around the hospital a lot because of relatives and friends being patients there. And my question is, for a country where there's a high incidence of those things, hypertension, diabetes, obesity, and so on, is this an ideal? Because the biscuits, the things there with the cream, whatever filling, sweetie stuff, that's a lot of flour and sugar and whatever. The other thing there is, when you look at that, how nutritious is that? And how suitable is that for a whole range of patients? But, people will want to criticize. I must admit, I would have a difficult time eating this because I don't eat the part that the crackers, well, not crackers, those are sweet biscuits, that's what we call them. I don't eat that stuff, and for me, anyway, that person, I would say to that person, enjoy it if you happen to be a patient, but I don't know that I would want it for most patients, and as supper. But people want to figure that. So in looking at that, of course, we're talking then about the situation in the face of the IMF agreement. And the question basically we have to ask ourselves, Marcia, is where are we in relation to, now that we have come out of that arrangement, because we've talked about some of the additional burden that we've had to carry, and that is illustrative, as you said, if Dave can find it. And let me just see what Patrick designs. And you know, the choice of meal. And the person is correct, because, you know, but the question, Marcia, is where are we in terms of this? How far have we gone on the positive side, having gone through this? How far have we gone, or how far do we remain on the negative side? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about government being able to access loans, yes. But one of the things that will continue to plague us, because we are talking about a situation where government has engaged in borrowing a lot of foreign loans, and the corollary of that is, if we continue beyond the austerity, we are now looking at the government's level of borrowing, and more specifically, foreign, you know, borrowing in foreign currency, foreign exchange. Lemuel says the cucumber like it went into the oven. I was gonna comment about the color of the skin, because it didn't look green, it looked kind of yellowish, but so, but back to the issue that I was raising. I was saying that government has been borrowing heavily, and so they will say, and it is factual, that yes, we have these higher level of foreign reserves, but we also know that it is factual that those foreign reserves have been borrowed and they were not earned. They have to be repaid. And my question is, what is happening since this program started until we have reached what has been described as the end of the program, to say that we have put Barbados in a better place to generate foreign exchange? There's discussion of a whole set of pending new hotel, you know, so there's the expansion of the hotel rooms and so on. Lucinda, you want to talk about that, Marcia?
She said that it could have been 2 bakes and an egg, and she can't eat eggs or sweet biscuits. PM, are you seeing this? Shame on you. I mean, Miss McLean, this is where I'm at. You know, I'm thinking that I don't understand how anybody could defend this. If this is really true, and we have to say, if it is really true, how could this ever be defended? This is the same PM. Actually, don't want to change your thing, but towards the end, I want to make mention of it, where she says the people are clamoring and tell her, don't, you have to run again. You have to be elected again. You have to be our MP. We need you as your prime minister. And I can't leave them, she says. But this is under her government. This is what is been given. It's alleged that's been given to
I don't know if you recall my having conversations to tell you that when that was said, I said I didn't expect her to be going anywhere. But
when what was said, what do you mean?
That the prime minister, she said this was going to be her last term and she was going to exit politics, and I told people I would have to see that. But of course, it is. You're into theater and that kind of thing, so it's nice theater, as they would say. but no, but in all seriousness, Marcia, how can anybody? And it really, this is where I would say the rubber hits the road, because it is at the end. Somebody the other day said they don't like the expression "end of the day." So when people say so, it kind of sticks with me. So as I was about to say, but. Tell me something. When you look at images like this, or you hear of problems, I don't know if you saw there's another video going around about the situation in at least one of our geriatric hospitals.
Yes.
And if that is the case, it is much worse than this, because they're talking about scabies. It was scabies, I think it was, the absence of soap and having to share And that speaks of significant failure in the delivery of care at the geriatric hospital referred to. And if that is true, the question is, in all that we have been bragging about, why does it appear to be, as alleged in that clip, to be shortages in the geriatric hospital, which have resulted in persons' health being challenged? The person talked about mosquitoes, I believe. They talked about the condition of the whole issue of rats. And I was trying to remember exactly what it is.
But I don't doubt them, Miss McLean. I told you already on this program of my experience. Nobody told me anything. And at that time I was even doing Mike on the Move, where a big rat jumped. You remember I told you that I was at the QH, me. So, it's not anybody put anything on social media and I'm reading it. I experienced it. I ran. And my students that were with me ran away screaming in the hallway. The rat jumped out of they were carrying this like a big container. It seemed to have clothes in it, or I don't know. And
probably linen that was going to the laundry or something.
Can you imagine? Oh, the linen. Oh God, a big rat jumped out and started to run in the hallway. We thought it was running us down. And so we ran. I ran and left the children. This is on C ward, the C ward. And then the rat ran into the C ward. And you know what? The nurses, everybody was calm and everything, because apparently they tell us it's a regular thing there. It wasn't like they locked down the place and say, no more visitors, we have to find this rat. They didn't say anything like that. They continued like normal. You are sick and rat running up and down. So I don't doubt that video at all. I don't doubt that video. And the Ghanaian nurses, they used to tell me at the geriatric hospital how many times they had to buy stuff for the patients. They had to buy washcloth for them. They have to buy cleaning supplies. And this government is trying to tell us that there is a bounty. That means what happens then? If you're going to pick up money and just give it away like that, it tells us that you are mismanaging, as Miss McLean has been alluding to. I'm not as diplomatic as she is. Mismanaging the taxes you're receiving. That's what it appears.
Yeah, well, and so in essence, what?
I should have captured it on the camera, but I was running. I wouldn't be able to.
We laugh, but I laugh not at the seriousness of the. I just had images of Marcia running and leaving the children.
I did. It's the truth. I did.
Jamaica is famous for producing sprinters. So
when I got around the corner, I said, "Oh Lord, I should not have left the children." I was gone. And all girls, because all the dancers, all you hear is screaming up and down the hallway on the C ward.
But it really says that at the end of the day, there's some essential expenditures that are critical to ensuring that we do not find ourselves facing deteriorating conditions. And if I can go back directly to the issue, because we're talking about where are we in relation to the, having gone through this IMF arrangement, and hearing government boasting of significantly higher levels of foreign reserves, and that in itself is not a problem, except for the caveat that I put in there about the ability to service that debt, because yes, you've had to service debt before, where debt was largely domestic, it was paid in Barbados dollars. But I want, as I said, when I look at the issue of debt, I also want to look at it as it relates to the situation of the other side of the coin, so to speak, generating the revenues. And there's not a lot to celebrate in the way that I heard some people wanting to celebrate, because if we look at it, there, as I said, our economy has not changed significantly. In fact, our tourism has been under some pressure, and with all that's happening in North America right now and in other places, the question is, are we going to see the numbers? We also would have there's been the plan, and we've seen some developments where new hotels are under construction, but outside of that, so in other words, the focus seems to be zooming in even more so than it's just reinforcing the critical role that tourism has to play. But let's look, for example, a lot was done in relation to energy, renewable energy, alternative energy. Regulations were put in place. The government inherited that, but we seem to have come to a major stalemate, a roadblock, let me call it that. And I want to emphasize agriculture, and more specifically, the sugar industry. And as you know, I have a very serious interest in what is going on in the sugar industry, because I saw what I thought would have been a laudable initiative come to a screeching halt. And to be specific, we heard at the end of 2023 a rushed decision on the part of government to supposedly turn the industry over to a cooperative entity. But as of now, everyone has gone silent. We cannot hear from the Minister of Finance. We cannot hear from the minister in the Ministry of Finance. We cannot hear from the Minister of Agriculture, and we need to hear from the officers of the co-op, because at the end of the day, it looks like government was pushed supposedly exit the sugar industry, and it committed, I think one article said about 8,000 workers and farmer workers would have become shareholders in some new entity. But we have heard the end of the program, but we have not heard the conclusion of that transfer. So the question is, where are we? Who owns the sugar industry? What role is government playing? What is the plan? Because Marcia, why I say that, when we talk about the economy and the foreign exchange earning entities, and in fact the profit making entities in the private sector, very little is controlled by the masses of people. And that was one opportunity where, imagine 8,000 Barbadians having a shareholding in an industry that has been with us since pretty much almost the founding of this country, and which brought us here against our wills. But that's another presentation for another time. But I'm using that as an example of the failure during this period of the IMF program to put a sector that is critical into a good place, and particularly one major aspect of that sector. And that's problematic. The other thing, while I'm on the business of agriculture, what has become of the medicinal marijuana industry? That was supposed to be a major plank in the whole business of expanding and diversifying our capacity to earn, and specifically to also earn foreign exchange. But that is that's another major issue. And if I could go to the area that you have a particular interest in, Marcy, and that is the cultural industries. We've heard a lot about the orange economy, but I am not seeing any significant advances in that sector to say that we are seeing an increasing number of Barbadians having to earn, within that sector. So the question really and truly is, what is happening with the various areas that were targeted or named for diversification. I haven't even touched on manufacturing. You've heard me here, I speak about that. So, and I'm listing these things because at the end of the day, it is critical that Barbadians have an opportunity or know that there are opportunities for the generation of significant earnings when we contemplate that we have to repay loans. Now, on top of all of that, I want to put this on the table because and I would really want to seriously.
Oh no. Oh no. Sorry, Miss McLean dropped out there. Okay. But folks, while Miss McLean is dropped out, if Dave, if you could put up that picture that we have there. I just gonna while she tries to get back in, I just want to say something to you guys. One of the things I know about warfare is this. You see, when you're in a war and you believe that your opponent is strong, you ever watch those wrestlers when they're going to fight? You ever watch the wrestlers, how they try to trash talk? They call it trash talk, right? They trash talk their opponent. You see these four here that you see here? All that is happening, this is trash talk. Can you hear me? Am I still live? I'm not seeing Miss McLean, right? I'm just changing the subject a little bit because Miss McLean dropped off and she was talking about all the different sectors. I'm deliberately changing it a little bit. Would you believe that I got this today, that political pundits warn the DLP must rebuild fast or risk demise? Where have they been the last couple of months where the DLP has been rebuilding? This is what I call trash talk. What they're doing is trash talking. Right? I just jumped in there with this. I kind of changed subject.
Gremlins seem to have taken me out just
taken you out a while ago. But listen, I want to say to you, a lot of you send me this and you're so worried. Look at what they're saying, etc. We don't have a strong opposition. Let me tell you something. Always go back to what you were seeing on the screen all of last week. Look at the candidates and the type of candidates. Yes, the DLP went through a hard time in August. They went through a hard time because of the plans, the political plans. You heard Marsha Hines spoke about that. You heard her talk about the plans that are put in political parties as they're trying to make these kingmakers. The plan is to destroy the DLP completely so that there's a one-party state. And though I am not a member of the DLP, I'm going to say to you that one thing that I hate very much, I hate injustice. I hate it with every bone in my body. And I can see that Mayor Motley has her tentacles inside and trying to do all manner of things. But I must say that I've seen such growth. And you and I saw that they want again. It's called propaganda. And with one little voice that I have, I want to say to you tonight, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. They want you to believe that what you heard and saw last week, that it wasn't true. It is true. Felicia did not win. But the people got $300. They spent almost $500,000 inside St. James. No, they did not give the part of the subvention to the DLP so that they could have a budget to work with.
Marcia, if I might, let me comment. I have avoided commenting generally because when I come on the show, I speak. Yes, I am a member of the DLP. I speak as a former foreign minister, former minister in the prime minister's office, etc., lead the government business. And I will say this: the Democratic Labour Party has gone through significant challenges, and I can say to you, as I reflect on the 10 years, we have done things that we probably could have communicated better, certainly. There are areas in which, but when I look at some of the facts and I look at the positions taken by the media, because one way in which we communicate with voters is the media, there was always hostility. Now, because of several forces, internal and otherwise, organizations go through life cycles. And at the end of the day, we have to deal with the fact that as a 70-year-old organization, we have to do, and this is required of individuals, of organizations, do serious introspection. But if you listen and observe, up to today, I received a WhatsApp message. And that message is intended, I would say, I would share it with you so you could see it, but I wouldn't put it in the public domain because then I would be helping the detractors. That message is intended to stir up hostility to the political leader and leader of the opposition. Barbadians have seen for themselves what he can do. I heard a young member of the Barbados Labour Party talking about how unlikable or some ridiculous thing. Now, here's a young man, he's probably not even 20 yet. We all know who he is and what was attempted.
What was he saying? We didn't hear, you didn't complete
But he
your
was trying to suggest that Mr. Thorne has become even more unlikable or some nonsense. A very, very negative, baseless kind of thing. It's just an opinion he's expressing or a set of words which are intended to inflame people's views, etc. I will agree that we have work to do to rebuild. I will also tell you that we have to recognize that having gone through what you described just now, it has its fallout, it has its impact on members. I will also tell you that based on allegations of what would have been reported, what people have said about what was said to them by persons campaigning for the government party, all kinds of promises were made. People alleged threats about if you don't do this and whatever. So I think that at the end of the day, the members of the Democratic Labour Party, yes, have to sit down and understand what has happened. They need to engage the public, etc. But I listened on the night of the election itself. I had your show on, I had CBC on, and I had VOB. And my son would tell you that he sometimes tells me I confuse him because he doesn't understand how I could listen to three things at one time. But I was able to do that at points so that I could get a sense. And, you know, it was interesting to listen to. I am not going to get into all of those things. So I say the political pundits, as they're described, yes, the party has to rebuild fast. That's a fact. But we also have to ask ourselves, what is it that is happening? Or how, well, let me put it this way. Party members and supporters have to recognize that they have to insulate themselves from some of the negatives while they themselves seek to address the shortcomings as well as the strengths of what brought us to where we are and have kept us alive. Because at the end of the day, if we listen to some people, we will all go home. And I will give you some examples of how the media behaves and how some of these people behave. And I will choose education because as I look at the four persons there, all of them have had connections to the University of the West Indies. So I would use the university because all four of them, I don't know about Mr. Bruce if he teaches, but I know he's connected to universities, either doing or did his PhD. The others would have taught at the university. Cast your mind back to the period when we were in office. And you would, if you go and search the media, you would hear references or see references to monies owed to the University of West Indies by the government. Go now and see if you can find similar information. In fact, I sat in a meeting where I heard a journalist ask a senior official of the University of the West Indies, and this is this year, what was the amount of money owed to the university by the government of Barbados and of course, by extension, other governments. And unlike what happened when I sat in cabinet, and I am paraphrasing, the response was, the actual figure is not important. When in fact, in a previous iteration, the same people would have provided specific information.
So it's
you ask yourself, why would that happen?
Yeah, because you're serving, you're there. People are serving their political party. I mean, you look at this young lady here, Miss McLean, and was she a former senator, an independent senator?
Yes, she was an independent senator.
Independent senator, and as far as I remember, wasn't she the one that was removed when replaced when Mr. Thorne crossed the floor?
Yeah, well, she would have.
Yeah,
yes,
the same one. So what do you expect? I'm being real. What do you expect? A lot of these people, I see her and I see some others singing. They want to pick me because a Senate seat is now open. And they're like, let it be a woman. And they're
I saw that, but I would hate to think that is what it is. I mean, you're expressing your view, so I'm just saying I would be very disappointed.
That's how I see it.
I understand that.
A lot of these people that they are looking a job. A lot of them. And when I saw these people, I thought, pick a woman, and they're they are doing things to be noticed so that they could get a pick.
I'm gonna take a different slant on the issue of women and not. I mean, I have listened to Dr. Hines, and I noted with interest her comment. There was an article joining her with another former senator, talking about that. But I would want to say this in relation to the notion of numbers of women. I remember very distinctly taking a position that I do not subscribe to the notion of quotas for the sake of quotas, because more important for me, and this is something that if you were to look at various governments, and certainly in the context of Barbados, if you were to look at the record of the two administrations, when you look at legislation and programming which were beneficial to women, either directly as women or beneficial to women as they function as women, as heads of households and mothers and so on, the Democratic Labour Party would have put in place a whole set of laws, and following those laws, programs and so on that benefit women. So the presence of a woman, to put it simply, does not mean that such an administration will engage in programs and so on that benefit women in significant ways. So this pick a woman thing is fine, but at the end of the day, the presence, I don't want to be picked because I'm a woman. And then you go and sit there and you do nothing about that. But, I believe that we have to look, and I value you saying we have to move away from party politics and think about the country. And party politics is a reality. I think what has to happen is that we have to move away from being unnecessarily partisan in terms of how we view things and how we assess what other people are doing, because people will sit down and I listen to these persons, and I don't dismiss everything that they say. I tell people I have an open mind, but at the same time, when you and this is not they didn't choose themselves. I go back to the election the other night and I looked at the panels, and you have a panel of 4, and 3 persons are clearly of a particular kind of thinking, it makes you wonder, if you want to have, what kind of discussion you want to have. But as I said, and this is my comment to my colleagues in the DLP, we recognize that there's a lot of work to be done, and that is done. Now, the interesting thing, Marcian, I don't know that any persons have sought to represent the positives of what's going on,
Right. And I want to stop you there, Miss McLean. And that is where we exist, because I recognize what is happening in traditional media. This is exactly what happened to Trump. A lot of you out there don't like Trump, but if it wasn't for the new media, CNN, the ABCs, all of them, the only one that you would hear something positive about Trump was Fox. This is exactly what happened. Regardless of the party, regardless of the person, look and you will see. And this is why we exist. We carried that for you, the entirety of it. They didn't carry it. You saw the speakers on the stage. You saw the effort. You saw Miss Dujon. We showed you her walking. You saw the political leader and all the work, hard work that they put into the party that I am not a member of. But I tell you, I will go for the underdogs. That's why the independent people are on the show. That's why the DLP will be on the show. Because if left up to these people, there will be one party in Barbados, if left up to them, and all the media houses. And yes, somebody says to me, "Oh, this lady is rich, and she doesn't want a job." There are people who like titles, and I'm not saying her. And what I'm saying is that people, a lot of these people are singing for supper, whether it be money or it be titles. And the fact that people know that there's a space there for the senator, and they but everybody all up in arms, and they try to push themselves forward, and who can throw the most dirt on the DLP, who can destroy the DLP the most. That's what it looks like to me. As Ms. McLean said, it's not her opinion, it's my opinion. That's what I see that is happening, and that is why we exist, because of that.
No, I recognize, as I said, I recognize in fact, I also heard some of these people trying to minimize the impact of this program, of the show, and actually I called one of them on it sometime. I think it would have been probably last year, trying to disparage the show, and I smile, because I tell people that if it were not for this show, a lot of Barbadians would have little or no solid information on issues, and part of it has to do with the nature of the show. I'm paused to read what it is. Square 4 says here, Maxine, what you say about the DLP. Only today I told one woman that the same thing is a 70-year-old organization which is evolving. It has to. No, I will share this comment because it doesn't reveal the source of the comment. I have reason on an ongoing basis to interface with a young individual who is a member of the Barbados Labour Party. And I asked the individual we were talking about the political climate in Barbados and the issues that we face in terms of the situation that developed last year in the Democratic Labour Party, and those things. And I would also say the way it was covered in the media, as I said, people will highlight what they want to. And the individual summed up the situation in his party as this: we have there ongoing issues, and it was a stronger term that was used. But we are an election machine. And by that, I will explain part of what the election machine is. That election machine has access to significant resources. And I dare say that as a government, and these are not my words, these are words from persons who have been part of the machine, they have access to public resources, or translate that into government resources, that they deploy. And so you see all of that. For example, it is alleged, and I think I heard it being reported, that the members of, you had senior members of cabinet and so on, making promises. It was alleged that these people are making promises to people to go and vote. You will get this done and you will get that done. Now, I will hope that when they make these promises, they can deliver. Probably not. But at the end of the day, I say to people, when it comes to financial resources, and this is my recommendation to my own party, do not attempt to compete in the ways that they operate, because you will, you need to show people that you can seek to reach them using a very different financial model or strategy, because you do not have that. And in fact, Marcia, given all that, and this is a personal position that I'm sharing now, given all that we have just described, and you started to talk about based on your moving around this country, I think it is wrong that political parties should engage in the spending of hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars on election campaigns, when in fact the focus should be on making sure that people's lives are better. I don't know. I mean, when I look at the US and I think of the millions, but that's an even different scale. And I ask myself, is it good to be spending all of that? And if you bring it to Barbados, we make the comparisons on campaigns on things that will be torn down. For example, posters. People spend lots of money, and then you put up posters, as Felicia would have seen, and somebody sticks theirs on top of it or tears it down. And I ask myself, should we do that? Should we waste money in that way? To me, I see it. People disagree with me strongly, and I accept the disagreement. And I'm talking now with it, that this is what we need to do. But I question whether in a country where people probably need a lot of help, should we perhaps be spending money on certain kinds of things? I don't know what you think about that, Marcia, but
yeah. I mean, that's my belief as well. I think that people in St. James North without in this day and age, without elderly people that do not. I'm not talking about people who are young and can work and have strength, but elderly people. Right, pensioners who do not have an indoor toilet, and have to why would I spend $500,000 on a campaign when I could be using that to put indoor bathroom facilities for the elderly? Just take even just the elderly. What about even fixing up the same community center? Right, the community center that was down there at St. James North, that's leaking, etc. I saw a farmer there, and the farmer was saying to Mr. John, when I went to film her, that they don't even have water. Why couldn't you take some of that money and have to bring water? What about the debushing? You understand? Now you've promised, you're going to make all these promises, but you've just used up almost $500,000 in campaign. All of those posters and all of the billboards, they're going to come down and they're going to destroy them. One billboard for $1,500, and you have about 7 up. Come on. These are the things that I think that as voters, and I don't care. You know, they say, oh, DLP will never get in, or Mia Motley will, whatever. Well, I will continue to speak once there's injustice. I'll continue to speak because that is injustice. You have people who are don't know where the next meal is coming from, but you could spend it on paper and plastic, promoting yourself. If you're good, you're good. If you're doing the work, you're doing the work. Get in the community and actually do the work. And this is for both DLP and BLP and all the independent candidates. And that's why I love that Miss Felicia Dujon said she went back into the constituency. She took a day to rest and she was back in the constituency.
I know that she went. Yeah, I know that she went. I believe, if I remember correctly, because we were at a meeting together yesterday for some hours, and then I think she left to go to visit somebody that she promised to visit, if I remember correctly. It is talking about her. It was refreshing to see the kind of approach that she brought. And, I listened to comments from some of the same persons that you had shown there. I wouldn't identify the specific individual, but it was almost a condescension, right? That I found offensive. I found it offensive in the sense that you seek to belittle somebody who may, who has brought to a campaign a seriousness, a purpose, a commitment to people. Because the truth is, I wait to see year after year, election after election, how persons engage. And I will use my constituency as an example. In 2021, this is 2025, because I can go on my computer and pull it up. We have a problem in this neighborhood. And it burgeoned into a problem after the government change. Because if it were happening before, I would have insisted that my then MP deal with it, and I certainly would have been in a position to raise it. And neighbors came to me because they figured that I should know something about how to get this done, and people wrote the offender directly, and whatever the case may be, I drew it to the media's attention and so on. And then I say, after
and
all
who's
that,
your MP? Who's your MP?
My MP is Sandra Husbands.
Yeah, because we gotta shoot straight.
No, because I don't have a difficulty. I live in James South.
Sandra Husbands.
And I wrote her a letter.
And they're very rude too.
Indicating the problem. And my response, and I will pull it up and send it to you sometime, to my letter was, thank you. The problem continues, and part of the consequence of having that problem, in fact, maybe I can get Mike on the move to come and stand up, but come and let me show them the problem, see if they can help me get rid of it. That is, you get rats and all kinds of things. Neighbors have written, and the agencies responsible have been written to. And you know what? It's still there, 2025. And so at the end of the day, I say to Ms. Dujon, you do not do the work of the sitting MP, but you have made a commitment to the people that you will stand by them, and you will do what you can as somebody who has an interest in their well-being to assist them. That would be my advice to her. But
yeah. Well, guys, we have the number. Did we put the number up? It's after
not yet. I don't think so.
And we told him Mr. Strickland was coming to you, and he was trying to do it on his vacation. He had a little challenge. He came in, but the segment was almost over when he finally got in. I saw that he wasn't getting any Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So what I needed to do, so we didn't have him tonight, but you know, he's going to come back. He's going to come back to Barbados. He has to come back. And he's going to give us that segment on the NIS and how it's going to impact you. It will be a revision because we've done it before. Those of you who are taking notes, you would remember. But Mr. Strickland will be back in Barbados and he will get it done. But the line is open, guys, 236-7000. 236-7000. And one of the reasons when things are said in the media, you have to understand, folks, the way the media works. When things are said out there and you don't correct it, it stays out there. So don't say, oh, just you've got to correct it. It's very important, and timing is important. You don't necessarily have to do it right away. You have to do it in the right timing. Don't get distracted, but you must correct it. It's very important. And they would have sat down and had that discussion that has gone all in the newspaper. Somebody's got to address it because it becomes as though it is, this is gospel if you say nothing about it. Okay. Now, on the screen is a number here, 236-7000. And this, you see what I have on the screen. But before I touch what is on the screen, I heard that this little young guy came on and talking about how the more people get to know Mr. Thorne, the more they hate him, the more they dislike him. Who are you listening to? Did you listen to the comments of the candidates as they spoke on the platform? Did you listen to the accolades that they gave him? Who are you speaking to? And I mean, these are the things, you know, this, and he's another one who wanted to go in the Senate, remember?
Yes.
I tell you, they're all singing for supper, some for money and some for power.
He's the same young man who would have spoken about the cybercrime bill, remember?
Yes, yes, he's a one, and then he's the one who wrote in the newspaper alluding, he didn't mention our names, but alluding to the fact that the group that I was part of, working with the children, that we were getting money from right-wing organization. This young man who is uninformed, all he had to do was to check. All he had to do is just not up to par. And because, you know what, has some little education. Listen, all of us have children just as bright as you.
You know, Marcia, I am here reading a message from somebody, and the person says, ask Marcia to invite these political scientists to appear on the program to take questions from the audience.
Well, I could invite them. I know they're not going to come.
Well, you invite them.
Yeah, I know they won't come because they stay in there. They like to stay together and talk foolishness. Did you see the gentleman who, he was just on here, is a political scientist or whatever they call themselves, and he was actually saying that Mr. John, listen, people, does not resonate with the constituents. What does he mean? Has he ever gone to any of the canvassing? Did he see Mr. John and how she related with the people on the? Give me a break.
You know, Marcia, one of the things, yes, she would have received less votes than the last DLP candidate. And I first of all, let's look at that. And I certainly would have hoped that she would have done better. But this is a constituency that for the last 35 years would have been represented by the Barbados Day Party, right? This is a by-election in which people were saying to her, we like you, but we are worried that if we vote for you, people will know how I voted. And that is something I say to people, nobody's supposed to know how you vote. But for whatever reason, there's this fear among Barbadians that some people may know how they voted. So when you start to look at all of that, now, so in essence, it isn't as though, I mean, as as I said, we would have hoped for much better. I certainly would have hoped so. But you had all of those resources behind the winning candidate in a constituency which, as I said, has traditionally been a BLP one, and so I tell people, I try to analyze all of these things. You can ask ourselves, what do we have to do better? What did we do that could have been improved, and all of those. But it isn't something, the result should not have surprised. If you compare the result with previous times, we see what happened. The other thing I also would want to say, because that will have to be tested through research, we also would have gone through what we went through last year. And there are persons who I am sure who supported the DLP might have had a preference for some of those persons who left.
Exactly. Reality.
That's the reality.
Reality. And that's what I'm saying.
You will have to work at winning those persons back, and if not, replacing them with other supporters.
Yes.
But to behave as if this was something that was totally unexpected and therefore problematic in a way that differently problematic, let me put it that way, is
Yeah. But Miss McLean, there's a caller. Caller, can you turn off your devices, please?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling the Marcia Week Show. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Marcia, thanks for your show.
Yes,
Very
sir.
informative and educational.
Thank you.
Listen, this might be a little seem insignificant, but I was wondering, why would it take over 4 hours or so to count just over 3,000 votes?
I don't know. I don't know much about that, but I don't.
Has anybody touched on that subject?
People have sent it to me. People have sent that. That people have, a couple of people have mentioned it to me, but I don't have that kind. But Miss McLean might be able to respond.
The counting, as you raised it, I chuckled because I was just trying to visualize the process.
Can you repeat the question? Somebody's asking.
Okay.
Caller, can you repeat the question?
Okay.
Speak a little louder.
Now, I was wondering, what is the process that would take over 4 hours or so to count just over 3,000 votes? I mean, it's not a general election.
But you would still have it. The general election is made up of 30 of those exercises in 30 locations. The question that I would probably have is, how long did it take to move the boxes from the polling stations to the counting station? It's a manual process, where you take the ballots out and you declare, and there's a tallying up. So that probably accounts for part of it. But it's also supposed to be a process that's observed. So the best thing I could say, sir, is that because it's a manual process, but it seems a little bit long, I suppose. The question was how soon after receiving them, because I think your 4 hours probably begins from the close of the polling station, the closing of voting, to the arrival of the boxes to the counting station, and then the start. So in fact, as I walk through it in my mind, the actual counting might have been less time. I'm not sure. I'm trying to recall when they actually said the counting began, because polls close at 6 o'clock. I would have to go back and find out how long it took to get those boxes physically moved from each of the polling, the stations where the people voted, to the counting station at the school. That's one step. Then the second step is, having gotten them to the counting station, how long did it, what time frame elapsed between arrival and the starting of counting and then the completion? So the physical counting, what percentage of that 4 hours, I'm not sure. But
okay.
But the question is whether or not they might use other.
If other 5,000 people had showed up and voted, they would have been there till about 3 in the morning.
Well, that is possible too.
Maybe that's an exaggeration,
but yeah,
no, that is possible too.
I think I see something. So we have another caller, but that's a good question. Caller is funny. Caller said if everybody came, it would be 3 in the morning over one constituency. So Lord, when we have all 30, what is going to happen? But let's.
But they're counted simultaneously. But he's just saying if you have more people in that constituency voting, go ahead to the caller.
Yeah. Good night, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show.
Good night, Marcia. And to your guest.
Yes, let me just say to the other caller that I'm very sorry we cut you off. I didn't say thank you for calling.
It was me.
Oh, it was you? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
I thought you was talking about the other call that was coming in.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. To be honest with you, I don't think that the time between the counting, the close of the election and the counting was excessive, because if you look at the general election, when the voting finishes at 6 o'clock,
yes,
and if you can check back to see when the first results start to come in, normally they give you them in pieces,
yes,
but when they give you start to give you the first results, if you match up the time is almost about the same. So I don't think it's anything for much alarm relative to the time for the counting.
Okay.
Because it is a process, and it all depends too on how many polling stations there were in St. James North for those boxes to come from. Yes, there is the transport board bus that the government normally can commission to have those boxes collected and transported to the counting station. So as a result, I don't think that should be a problem in delaying the process to get the boxes to the counting station. But I don't think the time was overly excessive, to be honest with you. What I'm concerned about, and I agree with Mr. Tate, I think it was one of your subscribers or viewers who put in your chat.
Yes, sir.
That vote ban is a dangerous thing in this country. And I am of the opinion that the solidarity $300 is tantamount to using the Parliament of Barbados to legalize influencing an election. The reason I say that is our government would have been aware that there would have been an election in the time frame within which they decided to pay out that $300. And they set the timeline for the campaign. 2 weeks, I think it was, that was set. And if you recall, I think it was in that same constituency that it was announced that you can start going to the post office and the various entities through which you can obtain or sign up to get your $300. To me, that was psychologically influencing the decision of the people in that constituency to say the government give me something or they're doing something for me.
Yes.
So we got to go with them.
Yes, agreed.
There is the challenge I'm having is when other people, when they start to interject the thing about the lady is not from Barbados and all that sort of thing, where she was all along. Where was the young man all along? The young man was not in Barbados.
Yes.
In actual fact, the Prime Minister said she went overseas and she told him she needed to have a job, I believe, I think it was for him. And she brought him back, planted him in the Ministry of Education,
went all along. There were challenges in the Ministry of Education where there were parents grouping, asking for something to be done to the head of the Ministry of Education, and there was no response. However, at the moment that they recognized that they needed to put somebody in that seat down there, they planted him in the Senate and planted him in the Ministry of Education to build his profile. So that, again, unfair, if you wanted to use the economic vernacular, unfair competition, where you build up one candidate while the other have to scramble and struggle to try to build their profile. Yes, the lady would have been able to do some work on her own, but she could not match the level of money that would have been splurged. Note my word, that would have been splurged on that campaign.
Very well said. Yes, sir. Let me ask you some. Okay, sorry. Complete what you said. Complete. I thought you were finished. Complete, sir.
No, no. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is that we need to be mindful of the mouthing that are going against the opposition party.
Yes.
Seriously,
agree.
You have a party who is in government and it have a lot of mouths to feed. It have plenty mouths to feed. So I don't see that they're going to be able to feed all the mouths as adequately as they would want to within the time frame that if people wanted to say they want to change a government. So as a result, they will do everything to annihilate the Democratic Labour Party.
Correct.
And what the people must be mindful of, the narrative will always be set as though the Democratic Labour Party cannot get its act together.
Sir,
you will not see
I'm
the
gonna,
media
sir,
houses, the fourth estate. What is the fourth estate doing to help police politics in Barbados and to ensure that, given that there is only now, well, there wasn't an opposition before for about what, 3 years or more? Well, no, didn't have any for about 4. They called it within 3 years, and now for about 5 years we did not have an opposition voice. What was the fourth estate doing to assist the people in the hardships that they're experiencing? The people in Barbados does not want to open their mouth about the hardships they're experiencing. We got it from water. We got it from fare. You know, there are people in Barbados that have to pay as much as $14 every day to go to a job that pays them about $300 or more or so dollars. And then when you have to take lunch out of that and they have to pay rent, if they're even renting a room at $150 per week, what do they have to feed their children? Let us get real and stop playing around that there's not hardship in this country. There are people suffering. There are people who are asked to turn up to certain workplaces. They have to get there by a certain time. Let's say they got to get there, let's say for 2 o'clock in the day, but their work don't commence not till 4 o'clock. And they don't start to get paid until they get on the job. But they have wasted 2 hours at the workplace that they will not be paid for. At the end of the day, they go home with sometimes $100 or $198 after having been out for the whole week.
The whole week, yeah.
Who is looking into these things?
Well, caller.
The exploitation in Barbados is at a high.
Caller.
It is at a high. Thank
Caller.
you. Sorry.
No. I mean, excellent points. I want to ask you this before you go. Are you from? Were you born in Barbados?
Yes, I was.
Okay, but you lived overseas for a time.
Why are you saying that?
The way I ask you, no, there's a reason I'm asking you that. The way the way you speak, your accent and the way you say the word Barbados. Or is it that you're a white Barbadian? You know, I'm talking straight. No.
I know the voice.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think I know the voice.
I'm very, very black.
Okay. All right.
I'm just like you.
No, all right. Thank
but
you.
I'm not Jamaican.
I'm not Jamaican. Okay. Thank you so much, caller. Thank you.
But no, we need to make sure that we have our people understanding.
Yes, but
that
sir,
they are not fighting, and some of this battle is not just on the surface.
Yes, but
this
is why
spiritual,
yes,
in some extent.
Yes, but this is why we came on the scene, because we realized that the media was singing what the media wasn't doing the work that, and I'm speaking, and they could all say what they want to do. Say they weren't doing the work. Everybody could see that.
I don't have anything against. I don't listen to CBC really, because I understand where they're at. They have been planted with a general manager who came from the bosom of the Labour Party.
Exactly.
So you would have the programs and whatnot will be fashioned to maintain the Barbados Labour Party in its standing. The other media house, the popular program that they have, listen to almost all the moderators.
There you go.
Yes, David tried, and then I'll call names. David, I'm not gonna
yeah, don't call all the names.
Right. David tried to steer middle of the ground sometimes and try to play devil's advocate and whatnot. But most of them are gatekeepers. They are gatekeepers.
Yes.
If you ever hear anyone call and seem to appear that they are going to defend the position of the Democratic Labour Party, all hell breaks loose with some of the moderators.
Yes.
I give it to Christine that she tries to do a good job too as well. But you can tell all the others. I said all the others, because it is clear. Go and pull a lot of those programs, and you can go through them and pick up that they are gatekeepers. And we've got to understand that.
Yes.
Then the Democratic Labour Party is suffering from its internal injuries that is still festering. It was injured. It was wounded. And then you had people who were only interested in their own personal egos, and they could not see the party.
Yes.
All they were seeing as their opportunity to get to some place that I'm not sure where it is they wanted to get, because it certainly wasn't to represent the people. It was mainly to see how they can aggrandize themselves. And as a result, the bickering start and the infighting start, and you can examine some of them. They're not politicians either. Because sometimes politicians look at the leader of the Barbados Labour Party. She went through her troubles in the Barbados Labour Party. She stood her ground and stood up, and she waited her time out, because she knew that she had age on her side. Yes, God can decide that, but she knew she had age on her side, and at some point in time, the then leader would have to move on, and she would have an opportunity to rise, if anything. But as a result, our people don't understand. Anyhow, bye.
Listen, this caller is on tonight. I don't know the person, but let me tell you something. This is on tonight. Everything he's saying, every single thing. Caller, thank you so much. Thank you for calling.
Continue the good work.
Yes, thank you.
You will have distractors, but try to rise above them.
Yes, we will.
Have a good evening, sir.
Let me tell you something. This caller is on point. You hear what I tell you? And this is why, you see, this show is so important, loyal opposition, that we stick with what we are doing, stick together, okay? Because the media's intent, listen, nobody pays any bills for nobody over here. And no, we not look no job. Anyway, there's a caller coming in. The call coming in. Good night, caller.
Yeah, good night.
Good night. So you have to turn down your device that you're listening to us on. We're happy to hear you, and we want to hear you.
Good night.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope you're hearing me now.
Yes, very loud and clear. Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to make too very much of a speech, but I want to point you back to the guy that was there first.
Mm-hmm.
The guy of the time it takes to count 3,000 votes when they're all counted in one area. Please stop being and allowing people to make you partial and listen to what the guy is saying. He's the only body that's on the board. Thank you very much for having us tonight.
Okay, thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. Miss McLean, let me let you jump in there while we wait on the next caller.
You mean in terms of
anything that you want to? I know there's somebody that we missed, so I'm calling them back. But if there's any, just make a quick point.
I think the whole issue of counting of votes, the transportation of boxes, and some people have raised concerns about them, time-wise, and generally the way they're secure, the police escort them, but candidates have their representatives go with them. It perhaps is the method of voting. I think what we may have to do as a country is to look and see what the options are in terms. I mean, I know how long it takes to count votes in different parts of the US, because different states have different kinds of processes, and sometimes that runs into days and so on. But that's a problem. I think at the end of the day, the issue of the media, VOI is saying that the stations have to spread the BLP propaganda, and I listen. As I said, I've been around a long time, and I've been listening to these call-in programs, for example, for decades, from around the time when many of them had just started on VOB, the station. And so on. And I think people, my concern is the listener. You have the person?
There's a caller on.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, caller.
Hi, good night, Marcia.
Yes, welcome to the Marcia Week Show.
Hi, thanks. I guess I'll go to call myself now Miss St. James North.
Yes.
When I call, so I know who I am.
Yeah, so she's from St. James North.
Okay.
I'm smart into everything that went on during this election. Of course, I only live in one area, so I wouldn't know all that went on in the areas. But in my small space, what I saw going on, there's no doubt about it. We had a BUY election. People had cars giving out shirts from the trunks. People would stop them, they would get them shirts. Even at a bus stop on the main road, down Western, I call their names, down Western. I was at the bus stop. Car passed down and asked people, and gave them shirts and hats. It was a by-election. Now, I can say the caller before this last one, I know who it is. Because for a while I was asking you to go and tap in to the lecture the same person had given. So this election thing, especially with the BLP, goes way back from our famous Mr. Adams. And we had a guy on the show some time back that mentioned what had happened with this cross in the boundaries in St. Peter. Everybody dropped the hand and said certain things, but this goes back from this is history. This is documented in what the BLP does. Now, if you control an election during COVID and disenfranchise thousands of people, Marcia, what would you not do?
Mm-hmm.
What would you not do in order to keep in?
Mm-hmm.
The problem I'm having is, I have a question for Maxine, but I'll ask it after this. The problem I'm having, we are so caught up in trying to win an election. Not both B and D.
Yes.
And we forget that the nation is there dividing among themselves, fighting among themselves, and they're suffering. And these parties caught up in winning an election. Ms. Dujan has brought a freshness to what politics is supposed to be about. And if, of course, it's not going to sit well with the opposition. When I say opposition, I mean the BLP.
Mm-hmm.
It is not going to sit well because you're accustomed giving away. And we go back to the same program with Marsha Hines. We are caught up in this giving away. I saw it with my own eyes in St. James North. I see people that they have nothing to do with the BLP. All of a sudden, I see them in the shirt because they want who hold on something. It means nothing to the neighbor that's suffering, and they can talk for you because you're suffering. They want something. They want handout. When the Jehovah Witness pass around the area, first thing you hold out your hand for a track.
Mm-hmm.
You want a track. You want something. We want to go to give them.
Yeah.
What you expect? This is the mentality of some Bajans. I'm not saying all. Everybody in love with this $300. And look what happened. Getting take it back. The people know the money was nothing. They know.
Mm-hmm.
But the mere fact of getting it. We have to change our mindset. We have to educate the people how important it is. We have to give education to them. The show, you know, I'm loving the show. Now, I was one. Let me just say this. I was one that had not voted Maxine for 20 years. The last time I voted was David Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
That is how set up I was with voting. You know, I went and voted this time.
Okay.
And I voted. What I tell you?
So what would have prompted you to go? Explain to the public why you felt it necessary to vote.
Pardon?
No, I was saying tell the public why you felt it necessary to vote, because I think you made the decision 20 years is a while.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying that there must have been something important that would have said
she's answering you. She's answering you.
Okay.
Go ahead, caller.
Well, right. Because she brought a difference to politics. She visited my home. And I could give you the story, but I won't take up the line with the story.
Yes.
And just her demeanor alone was point blank. Of course, I wanted to get opposition into parliament too. But in 20 years not voting, she inspired me to go back out. Right. I gave the story last time that I went to the wrong station and I was already fed up because I had to go to another station. I just relating the story for Maxine. And you know what? A guy next to me super me long because I was fed up already. And I said, no, I got to go. I got to give this lady my vote. She even gave a story about a lady telling her she was going to vote. She never voted in her life. But you know why she was going to vote? Because her son liked Miss Dujan. Mm-hmm. Miss Dujan is bringing a freshness to politics in Barbados. It is only one person. Then we have Mr. Thorne. We have the whole set in the DLP bringing a freshness to politics. It is not going to take off right away. It is not.
Yes, I agree.
You have to make that start.
Mm-hmm.
You have that start. I will say all these third parties and fourth parties and 19 parties need to stop it and come together and pull together and say, listen, if we don't, even the Christian community, if we don't stand up and know, if we don't stand up, we will lose our country. Not only lose it, our children will be lost.
Yes.
You saw that first clip. You could see straight away what sort of community it was. And you know those people were happy to see the Gospelfest?
Yes, they were. They were.
They were happy They were enjoying their life. The guy said, I am on the block, I'm a block man, but I just still sing about the goodness of God.
Yes.
That tells you not lost. They're not lost.
Yes.
It's just that they don't know what to do.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
I think they
Yes, thank you so much, caller. We have 2 callers here waiting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. McLean, go ahead.
Well, I really there's one of the things that I want to touch on that the caller raised was the kind of candidate that Felicia Dujon is, and the sincerity, the commitment to work with constituents, and I mean, as you indicated, Marcia, she was back in the constituency after the election. And I can tell you that yesterday, after sitting through a meeting of several hours, she left that meeting to go and see somebody in the constituency, having made a commitment. That is my recollection. Having made a commitment to do so, she went off to see that person. And basically, what you're talking about is advocating on behalf of the constituents. I caution her, though, that she must avoid doing the work of the sitting member of parliament, because that would be giving that person a free pass. But I think the important point is that at the end of the day, and I'm sure this is part of what she's seeking to do as well, is to work to show people how they can empower themselves, and recognize that as a community, as individuals within a community, they themselves can work to address issues of importance to them. And I believe that she's been an excellent example for a lot of our new candidates, who are currently working in various constituencies.
Yes,
And I believe in her sincerity. I've seen her operate before, and people need to remember that Felicia has been an advocate on issues for a while.
Yes, Ms. McLean, we have a caller. Yes, go ahead, caller. Good night. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Marcia, I listened to the show tonight. I was a bit impressed, but last night the comments of that young man had me flabbergasted, because the only person that started at the top of anything is a grave digger and a well digger.
What are you talking about? You mean the Kasawala gentleman?
That's right.
Oh.
That young man, he has forgotten his, as a matter of fact, I think he was forced into the party because from the age of 10 or something, so he was on a political platform when he should not have been. But the problem is now that you see a lot of these people, a lot of the pundits on the radio show, the presenters, has forgot that Walton Arabara gave them free secondary education. And a lot of them, as Mr. McLean would say tonight, forgot that when the government could not afford to pay the fee for them, when a lot of them, and Mr. McLean would tell you this, was skipping from faculty to faculty and playing the fool. As I said already, if the government gave you 1 degree and you want 3 and 4, why not pay for them? You see? And a lot of these people, a lot of our people who has risen to the top of the ladder has forgot and get up the top of the ladder and kick it back down. They didn't even come back. They get educated at the expense of the taxpayers. I know a lot of them walking around, all like the same political analysts and those. He was around the university and somebody was around the university for a while. Ms. McLean was there. They were always in student affairs, the president and vice president. And they know what happened when the university had money and could afford, when the guild was given when the university faculty was giving the guild money, and a lot of them had the money to fool around with. Ms. McLean would tell you this, they could fool who they like, but they must remember that some people was around the university, and a lot of them played the fool around the university. Go back to the time when we had the strikes, when a lot of them set out. Some of them set out. Did any person call? Well, when Alpha brought out the police with the new gear that was given to them, and we had the Kenny Anthony wife was one in that. But some of these people are ungrateful. The Bible always says, teach a man to fish, not giving the fish. But a lot of our people, Ms. McLean, are hand to mouth. You see, money is the evil, the root of all evil. And this is what a lot of them forget. We need to go back to civics, teach history, teach where we came from. A lot of us came from far back. And they gave a good opportunity to the University of West Indies. And now these same people are pundits are talking all the time about the Democratic Labour Party.
Yes.
But they forgot, and you had a lot of people who came into the party and want to start at the top. When you could get someone saying get rid of the old people, how does that resonate with you, the elders of the party?
Yeah.
Nonsense. The party?
Nonsense. Yeah. And
you need to,
go ahead.
You need the older folks to mix with the young ones and guide them along. You see? So we need to teach these people the history and carry them way back. But this present campaign, a lot of the young people, you can see they have spite in them.
Correct.
They talk the Elvis Wickham, Verla DePisa, I can remember Verla DePisa, the young Democrat in her days. She is regaining that again.
Yes.
So we are on the road. It takes time to rebuild the party, and a lot of them saying the party isn't going to come back. And then some of the Democratic members need to go. If they're not satisfied, go with the ones that want to go with.
Okay.
You need to weed them out. Don't let them call. You have some of them calling on the program who still claiming that they're members of the party, and yet they're giving the party a wrong name.
Yeah.
Even I heard a man sometime last week or this week, Robin Miss McLean, that came from St. John. I don't know if Miss McLean heard it.
Yeah, but listen, sir, thank you so much for calling. Point well taken, and well made. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate whenever you call. Thank you. But Miss McLean, I think there's one more caller here, and then I'm going to address just briefly what's on the screen, the picture and what is on the screen. I have to say something about this. Okay, just hang on. There's a caller. Good night, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show.
Hey, Marcia. Good night. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, sir.
Hello, me. Hopefully, diaspora.
Yes, sir.
I have an issue that was pending on my mind for the longest time about that QEH hospital. When I hear the story that the kitchen is not working,
the stove,
it's
alleged that the stove isn't working.
Do they have a maintenance program that they keep these things in order? I mean, that's sad, man. That the main hospital and the main stove broken down, and the government is walking around giving away $300 to people that don't really need it. When is Barbados going to wake up, I mean, and that name, the QA, need to change that name to and put it to something else. But I think Barbados need another hospital because there is so much pressure on the polyclinics. And they can take that land next to the hospital and give it away to a bank. It just tells you the mindsets of these politicians, how to think of the people that vote for them. I bet you that if one of these people that vote for that T-shirt and that $300 to get ill and goes to that hospital, they would regret it, because I'm not saying it's that bad, but the reports coming out of the services that you get from that hospital probably should be further. It's further, and the politicians they seem not to care about the healthcare of the people of Barbados. Healthcare should be a priority.
Yes.
Not hotels. I mean, hotels, the tourists come here and spend a couple of weeks and gone. They don't care about Barbadians.
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty much what we want to talk about.
But thank you so much. You're so correct about that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes. Important point that he's making there about the hospital. You know, and just the seriousness of it, you know, and I could hear the true concern in his voice. He's from the diaspora, and he's
Yeah.
concerned. But let me just say this as I have a little bit of voice left. I want to say something here. That you see this in Jamaica, we have a word we call ginal. You know who
What's
is
the
a
word
ginal?
again?
Ginal.
General.
You know who's
General.
no, you know who's a
General?
ginal? A ginal is a trickster.
Oh, general.
When somebody says to you, use a little ginal. Let me tell you something. You see this whole thing about, oh, I'm no longer, I'm going to be, you know, I'm staying for a second term, and I'm going to lead the BLP in the next general election, etc., etc. All of that. That's a lot of trickery. You hear what I'm telling you? When the newspapers, even overseas newspapers, were writing, they had. Let me tell you something. They had a machinery, a PR machinery that is put in place for the PM. And that PM machinery, they work on newspapers and bloggers outside of Barbados. You hear what I tell you? And I've researched them. Some of them are the same PR people that you would see report on Trory. You notice sometimes her picture comes up with Trory. They pay media people. You're following me? They pay them to push a certain narrative about the PM, and they do it from outside. I've promoted films. I promoted products. I know what I'm telling you. So they believe.
Yeah, I got you.
They believe that when it is promoted from outside of Barbados, that we in here are going to believe it. There was a newspaper that carried an article saying that the PM is eyeing the UN position. Who remember reading that?
I remember
reading that.
And then they had all several articles.
Okay, and none of them nobody asked them to retract it. The big question that you have to ask is this, and I will keep repeating it every night so people understand. I need to educate you on what happens when you're doing PR. A lot of times you write the press release and send it to the people, and they then publish it. Okay, caller, just wait. Let me explain this here, because this is a lot of foolishness that is happening here. A lot of nonsense, and you can all come for me, but I'm going to speak the truth. I sit here and I'm going to speak the truth as I know it. Nobody refuted the article. Nobody refuted it. They were pushing that all over the international media. They know what they were doing. So the big question is, what has happened? Tell the Barbadian people the truth. What has really happened? Ms. McLean, when I went to Kenya, I had the opportunity. I had a lovely vacation. And I hear the caller, but caller, I'm going to get this out before, because it's important, because you got to stop propaganda, right? We're going to have to stop the propaganda. I spoke to people, I can't call names, connected to the UN. Even after I got back, because of the trip, I got connected. And they were the idea of Miss Motley vying for the UN General Secretary, as much as they like her, because her Africa PR team does a great job where they promote her big time in Africa. They're paid.
I know.
They're YouTubers, they're bloggers, they're paid. They're paid by her team. Okay? Now, you know what they said to me? They said, if it is that Ms. Motley is trying to be a UN secretary, they said, boy, she has a whole lot of people to step over, because she doesn't have that qualifications, the qualifications as to vie for that position. Look at Miss Motley's you see, people are not going to want to say this, but I don't care. I don't care what they do. I'm going to speak the truth. Look at Miss Motley's bio. Go look at her CV. Compare it to the others who have been UN General Secretary. She's not qualified for that. I'm not saying she's not qualified to be PM, but she's not qualified to be any UN General Secretary here. She's not. So all of this that they had you in this thing, oh, UN General Secretary and carrying people and all the little yard fowls. Oh, look at what they're saying about her PM. You know, they want her. They want her. They want her. Who? Listen. I would not. I firmly believe, it is my belief, that the whole story was created from Barbados and sent internationally, so that we, the little minions down here, would say, oh goodness, she's so great. The people want her overseas. Do you understand me? But the people in the UN, Miss McLean, the people that I spoke to, while they like her, that she gives good speeches. But when you look at the other candidates, and we're going to go do that on the show, I don't have the time now, you will see that this was a mockery of the people of Barbados.
But it's to understand the process, in addition to the competition, the process by which the general membership do not vote for the Secretary General. But as you said, we could explore all of those things on another occasion. But I remember when there was a discussion, I said, and I'm sure if we go back, you probably, and it came here, I said it on this program, that it was highly unlikely that the Prime Minister would have stood down, you know, to go in.
It wasn't happening. It was not happening. And
but you see, this is designed to create a certain impression. But as you said, I will even spend time going into elaborate to you know.
Not tonight, but I will.
Yes.
I will, Miss McLean, because it created.
No, I mean in terms of what you're saying, that's a different point I'm making. No, I'm not saying you don't.
Yeah,
but
it's very important
that this is all part of very, very well orchestrated strategy.
It's an orchestrated
to maximize support coming out of this statement.
Okay.
So that it will be repeated over and over again. And but you have a call, I think you said.
Yes. Caller, good night. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show.
Good night, Mrs. Weeks. Good night, Miss McLean.
Hi, good night. How are you?
The lady that Mrs. Dujon left your meeting to come to see.
Oh,
yeah. Wow.
So I just wanted to let you know that, yes, I am the person, and yes, we did meet.
Oh, nice.
We didn't get to meet before the by-election. I'm a disabled person, and we had a lovely meeting. I had a lovely meeting with Mrs. Dujon. You can consider me like an independent if we had, that category of voter. Right. So anything that will improve the country that I live in, because my navel string is not buried here, but I choose to live here.
Okay.
You're Jamaican, aren't you? I got that accent.
Anything that will help.
You are Jamaican. You can't hide that.
No, I'm not Jamaican, but I have a lot of Jamaican friends.
Where are you from?
I was born in Great Britain.
Okay. Oh boy, that Jamaican coming through. Go ahead. I'm wrong again.
I have a lot of Jamaican friends.
By association.
I have some of that accent. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know, yes, she did come by, and yes, we did talk. Of course, I'm a disabled person, so my focus in assisting Mrs. Dujon is looking at the things that the disabled community needs, and I promised her I will work with her to give her some tips, and she can take what she needs, and what she doesn't need she can discard. But because I'm a disabled, that is my focus, and that's where my passion is.
Yes, excellent. Well, there you have it. This is the kind, and that's the thing I honestly believe, caller, like Miss McLean said, and she said, Miss McLean said it best tonight, that she has raised in our minds what an MP should be, or what representation should look like.
Finally, I would say that for the people who are worried about St. James North, we are going to hold Chad Blackman's feet to the fire. That is a commitment also.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
We are going to hold his feet to the fire. So whoever is going to be out there, as I said, this is the country that I choose to live in.
Okay.
And therefore, I want the best for this country. And I want the best possible things for disabled, not just adults, but particularly since Mr. John is a child advocate, particularly for the disabled children in our community and in our country.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
happy to hear that you were able to share that with us.
Wherever Mr. John's platforms are.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Thank you.
And,
Thanks
and
for
that's how
sharing.
you do. You change hearts one person at a time. Be real. Mr. John said she was going to go and she went. And that's what I like. I don't, you know what? That to me is it. Yeah. Yes, Adrian. Adrian, I can't wait for you and I to get on here together to deal with this monthly and about this UN thing. Right? I can't wait. You see, because we got to deal with it straight up. Because a lot of these here, they're not all they're gonna print is that she stays because the people say we can't do it without you, Mia. You gotta stay, and help us. That time she know somebody put it here, she can't, she gonna pass Trump. Trump has to vote, or the US will have to vote. Listen, all of this is pure gimmicks. As I said, ginal, trickery, buffoonery, nonsense. You hear I tell you? Foolishness. I can't wait for all I need my voice back. And
rest it as much as you can when you're off the show.
I will be off tomorrow, and I will be off Tuesday. And Adrian, make sure you join me on Wednesday in that segment. I think Miss McLean going to join us Wednesday too, but you and I, Miss McLean is Miss Diplomacy, but we're going for the juggler with her because we know it's nonsense. It's pure foolishness. Foolish in Jamaica, we say foolish. Okay, there's a caller. There's a caller again. One last caller. Good night, caller.
Hi.
Good night.
I'm going to keep strong.
Yes.
Of course, you know my face by now.
St. James North.
Yes, please. You see and hear the difference in that lady tonight compared to the first time.
Yes.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
It is a total difference. This is the effect Mr. John has on people. Thank you. Good night.
Wow.
Good night. Take care. Thanks for calling again.
That caller told me she liked Mr. John, but she wasn't going to vote,
Okay.
But Mr. John had not been to her house as yet. After Mr. John went to her house, she decided to vote.
Wow.
And to vote for Mr. John, and she hadn't voted for 20 years. I say to Mr. John, if you're listening, keep going. And this is why they see something in you, Mr. John, which is why they're saying that you're to join the BLP. You believe these people? You believe these people? You believe these are educated people that love Barbados? They don't care that there's no opposition in Barbados. You're going to tell her to come and join the BLP?
They did?
Apparently.
I'm not surprised though.
I can't listen. Voice come back because
you have to go rest your voice. Take it easy. Say nothing.
And I have 2 days to rest it, and I'll be back on Wednesday. Folks, we got to fight. That's what I want to say, Miss McLean. Everybody, listen. A lot of seniors watch the show. You are not. Don't think that I can't do anything. Whatever you can. This is your country.
Yep.
It's your country. Today, I met two. We were at lunch and met two Black Americans who are in Barbados. And Miss McLean, one of them watches the show.
Yes.
Tonight. The other one, she doesn't watch the show, but she is saying everything we're saying, and she's saying to me, Marcy, I can't understand why Barbadians can't see. The young woman, she was like, I can't understand. She's from the US. She's not living here. She said, I can't understand why they can't see what this woman is doing.
Wow.
Yes, wow. I was shocked listening to the both of them.
Well, we're into some interesting times. You know,
Yes.
interesting.
Well, Miss McLean, don't get weary. I say to the DLP, don't get tired. We are ready. If we are ready, if you think we're done, we just come. You understand?
If
Listen.
they think we're done, we just come.
Yes. You said it.
And the reality is, Marcia, you know, as I tell you, their events, deaths, birthdays, new births, and so on, they push you to reflect. And this whole exercise, I mean, as I was actually reviewing the exercise and observing and reflecting, Barbados is at a point where we have to pay attention to where we are going. I listen to, and I must tell you, I find his tone is becoming very braggadocious and arrogant sounding. And one of the things I tell people, stay calm and be humble. And you know, we talked about David Thompson and from the short, both former prime ministers talk about Barbados being more than an economy, it's a society. And people trivialize that. They try to take it in a very basic, I mean, it's a simple, straightforward statement. But this country is losing the essential parts of what it means to be a society. I saw an article, I'm going to send it to you today. Apparently, there's been some feedback given to the people in tourism about the quality of customer service in Barbados. And that in the tourism sector is only symptomatic of the quality of how many Barbadians engage each other, whether in a working relationship, employee, customer, employer, employee, because employers treat people very badly too. But how people engage each other on the bus, on the street. We're losing some of what I call our humanity, our humaneness, our decency as a people, just our civility, what it means to be a decent human being. And it's translating into a lot of very negative attitudes. And it's something we have to look at, because in everything else that we are losing, to lose who we fundamentally are as a people and become people susceptible to transactions, let me call it that. You want my vote, you got to buy it. And people say that to persons campaigning for Felicia. You want my vote, somebody got to pay. You want this thing, how much am I going to get? You know, what am I going to get for this and other, you know? So I there's something about who we are as a people that is disappearing.
Yes.
And we cannot afford to lose it, because, you know, what do we mean when we talk about society? Not a group of people sitting down and earning and just being totally oblivious to neighbor, to fellow worker, to whatever. I think there's a lot of, okay, I think Nigel has put it, we have lost the Barbadian ethos. And I in fact, that's something, Marcy, I must go and look for it. And when we celebrated our 50th anniversary of independence, one of the projects we looked at essentially asked, what does it mean to be a Barbadian? What is it that we have or we had that we should keep? What are some of the things that we need to lose? And I think Nigel has touched on it. I'm going to try and search for that information and have a discussion around it sometime, because I worry that as people, if we lose some of these fundamental aspects of who we are as people, we run the risk. In fact, that probably explains why people are willing to rob you and physically attack you as well, even though they've gotten what they wanted from you. Just a lack of concern or compassion or caring about other people, that you can be so violent, whether it is in words, it is in physical attacks, but you know, it's something that we have to check.
Yes. Well, that's a good. This is a good note to end on here, and I think Miss McLean, this is everybody needs to look into themselves right now and see what is it that we have forgotten, and develop a true love, a true love,
Yeah.
a true love for Barbados.
Yeah.
So with that, we end, and I know Dr. Ferdinand will be on tomorrow, along with Don Leacock, and some others are going to be on joining Dr. Ferdinand tomorrow. And I'll be with you on Wednesday. And we're hoping that Ms. McLean, we hope Ms. McLean can join us along with Mr. Strickland, hopefully. That presentation, we'll see if he's ready. Then we will probably make sure he does his, and let's see if Mr. Hines is able to join us. Okay. So God bless you all. Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you very much.
Thank you, Miss McLean.
Good
Thank
to
you,
be back.
viewers. Stay strong.
Will
Don't
do.
let them bully you. Don't let them bully you. You understand me? Don't let the other people, what you're reading in the newspaper, etc. Go and research for yourself. Don't listen to all of that. A lot of it is propaganda. Yes,
It is intended to have negative effects, and it's to understand. As I say, I listen to criticisms from anybody, and I'm able to sieve from that what is constructive and what is intended to be destructive. And
Yes.
I do not lose myself into the destructive. I take on board the positive and the constructive, and I've seen and heard some of that, but I also I've seen and heard deliberate efforts to create self-doubt, confusion, you name it, within the political arena and outside of that over the years.
Yeah.
So
yes.
All
All
right,
right.
I wish
Thank
you
so
well,
much.
and
God
that your
bless
thought
you.
will be,
Yes. Yes.
and
Bye
to
bye.
all our viewers, have a
Yes.
good evening.
Good evening. I don't know if Dave has anything
That
to
mass nor English. Pretending to be good. I pretending to be good. Just pretending to be good. I pretending to be good. I just pretending to care about people. 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 Pretending. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
Dancers, come forward, walk out. This one I got worldwide.
Just days after former government backbencher Ralph Thorne crossed the floor, he's taken the oath of office as leader of the opposition.
Cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. On the other side, cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Wait there, Ralph Thorne. Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest trend. Everybody know link up a friend. This one designed to be.
And more will be left over.
Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest.
Are these trips so important?
Link up a friend. This one designed for the living of men.
Yes, I'm for real, member. I am for real. Don't let me talk out your business. Don't let me talk out your business. All right.
And I can't decide, so I'm moving with the die. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yes, yes. Oh, let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. On the other side, cross the floor.
There has to be some order here.
Cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph.
The Minister of Finance is not party to this present transaction, Your Honor. Ask him to keep quiet, please. And I say to you further, Mr. Speaker, that my conscience, my location here is related to my conscience. I said it last year. It is well with my soul.
side, so I'm moving with the tide, moving with the tide. Take a wine on the right side, take a wine on the left side. And I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yeah, and let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Torn, Ralph Torn. On the other side, cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Torn, Ralph Torn.
That is my man, so whether he cross or in cross, he will always be there for us.
I came to a point where I had to take the decision that if my philosophical and political views do not accord with those of government in terms of its legislation, in terms of its policy, the relationship becomes untenable.